Hello, everyone out there. I'm Brian Tierney. This is the Blessed Life University podcast. I'm coming to you from the beautiful Crosse, Wisconsin, and I'm here with retired Command Sergeant Major Stephen Dreyer of the United States Army, a real man's man. He's old school, just like my dad, which I love because I'm a product of that myself. And so I just wanted to bring him in while we're here, get a podcast in, and just hear a lot of different perspectives. So what we're going to be going over today is, just about the little getaway I'm having here. We didn't get to see each other for Christmas, so we're exchanging gifts right now. Got a couple cool gifts for each other, and we're going to talk about Steve's life and times from starting in the military all the way up to presently what he's doing now, and the transition from being in the military to being here in La Crosse, Wisconsin. He's got a beautiful family and a beautiful home, and that's exactly what this podcast is about, being blessed. The people around you make your life blessed, and doing good things in your life and being surrounded by good people. So let's talk about what's blessed. Steve, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good. I actually got in about a 5-mile run today, clear my head, and was able to be at peace with that and think about more things I'd like to bring to the Blessed University podcast and share my thoughts with you and our audience. And it's very, very humbled and honored to be on your podcast today. So yeah, I'm doing good. I'm in good spirits. Got some good physical and mental exhaustion out this morning. So everything's good. And again, thanks for having me on.
No problem, brother. In the meanwhile, you were out running. I got my exercise in for the day too.
Nice.
It's kind of crazy to be traveling from Chicago and bringing weights with you, but it's worth it, right? That extra weight you got to carry it allows you to, still stay in shape on the go, because the older I get, the more I realize that, you lose your body if you don't use it.
That's correct.
And so I'm trying to keep up with it every day, because when I'm done exercising, doing a little weightlifting, I feel so good,
Yep.
man. My arms feel bigger. They look good in the mirror. I feel better. I just feel stronger mentally. I'm in better shape. And so while you were out running, I was down here doing the same thing, because
Nice.
I figured if I did it in the reverse order and you got home and you're waiting for me to get done exercising, that wouldn't be a good thing. So I wanted to be in kind of lockstep with what you were doing, and so that we could start this off right at the same time here and be on the same page. And did you take Cooper out for the run too?
I did. So we have a 38-pound poodle. I guess he's a medium size, got more of a French nose, and he likes to run, but on the leash, he could be a handful because he likes to lead. So he likes to sometimes drag me and slow down, because I think he's a little scared of the leash, because without the leash, he'd be running in front of me. But yes, he's a pretty good runner. I think the most run mileage I put on him was probably 7-8 miles. I mean, he's still only 2 years old, but he can make it. There's no problem. But he sometimes will turn back and want me to follow him back when he's not on a leash. So I think he gets tired of it. But he's a good pup. So he definitely keeps us busy with the energy. So he's definitely a blessing, but he also can be a blessing in disguise, because he needs so much activity and energy on a daily basis. I call him 3-a-days, because you can run him in the morning, he'll want to go this afternoon, and then tonight he'll want to go again. So he's a funny dog.
No kidding.
He will.
He want to go out and run again?
He will. He'll want to go exercise again. So
Yeah, but you're not going to do that. We'll just exercise him out in the house.
right. Yeah. But that's how he is. So
No, that's awesome. I never really thought of dogs as doing that, because, you're a long distance runner,
Right.
so I'm sure you could tire him out pretty good. And that's probably a good thing, because now he's relaxing.
Sure.
Your daughter went out with your wife, and my wife went out, so they're going to be out there shopping and doing their thing. Your daughter's getting ready for the winter formal dance.
Yeah.
Those were the good old days when we used to have those in high school, and I'm happy for her, man. I'm really happy for her. I'm going to have my own family soon, but it's just beautiful to see, your daughters growing into young women and enjoying all the cool things that we went through when we were younger too.
That's correct. Yeah. And it's really good to see her thriving, and she's working as a young lady, and the other one's out in Denver going to college for art college. So it's good to see them being successful in small steps, because life is really about I talk about inch by inch, life's a cinch, and yard by yard, life's hard. It's like bringing it back into fitness or meditation or journaling or whatever you do. And if you start all at once, you're not going to accomplish what you would do if you started in small steps and started building up. It's just like running. You got to put 1 foot forward. It doesn't matter if you run 10 steps, doesn't matter if you walk 10 steps, but you got to keep progressing it to get better. And that's what life's all about. And that's what they're doing. So, and it's very good to succeed, as you have over the last, 3 to 4 years since you finished college and you've become very successful, like Southside, proud White Sox fan, Irish, and now you're making that clientele and you're making them baby steps are getting to be bigger and bigger. You're like, making community connections because of all the people on the South Side. And I credit you for that. And that's the gift of the gab. And you definitely bring the crack to the party. That's an Irish saying. And you like to have fun. And you bring the people together. And I'm very blessed to have you in my life. You're like a little brother. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man. And you're like the older brother I never had and kind of needed as well, especially, when my dad passed in 2013. And I was in the middle of my last year of law school, really busy with honors programs and externing for the late, great John W. Dara, federal judge, who you actually went to his wake with me. Real honor to be there. Just a real example of what a good person is and the kind of person you need in the court system, because you know that the guy's fair and he's going to do what's right. And it was great to learn from a man. And it's a shame, he was a busy judge. So when I was externing for him, I wish I had gotten to know him even better. But, you mentioned the White Sox and all that earlier. He was a diehard Sox fan, and he would go to a lot of games. And because he did, the White Sox would allow him to have a row or two of seats that he could have just for his own personal outing. And so every year he would get tickets to, certain games. Once in a while we'd get lucky and he'd get like the Cubs, Sox, but it could just be whatever team. And we'd all go together, and it just made him really happy to bring people together. I've been able to do the same thing. I just had the UFC fights at my office last week. We got a projector, the surround sound, the whole thing. I bought a whole bunch of chairs. Really takes a lot of work to put that together, but it's really worth it when you bring all these people together. And I said that too before the last fight. I turned down the volume, and I just wanted, I turned down the volume, and I told everybody, hey, you know what? If you're here, you're close with me, and I like to bring people together, and it's good to have you guys as part of my circle, and just, thank you for being here and coming and enjoy it with me. And what I found is that people who are never really into fights or, into the UFC are starting to like it because they can see, the positives of it. Like, these two people have trained so hard to be elite level fighters and all this, and to see them battle it out. There was a night we were watching an American fighter versus this Chinese fighter. It was two female fighters. And it was almost like you watched like an out-of-body experience happening for both of them. So it was like their souls almost were battling. There was a test of the will to the very end. And they went all 5 rounds and it went to decision. But it did go to Team America. So awesome. China's getting the best of us in other respects, but our fighters are still holding their own. Yeah, no, man. Everything you said, man, I brought who I am to the next level and I built on it. And to your point about taking things step by step, I had ADD when I was younger. And for me, I would get overwhelmed or stressed about thinking about bigger pictures because all the small ingredients that go into that. So to your point is, if you just focus on the steps, the bigger picture is not that hard. You just got to realize the final destination's at the end. And in every facet of my life, whether it's just cleaning around the house, you got to, I feel, realize when your hands are full, you only have 2 of them. So if I have 2 things in my hand, or if I overloaded my hands, it's too much. But if I just put one thing down, I'm only focusing on the energy of that and where I have to go with it and to put things in their place. So it's all good, man. I didn't have my coffee yet, but I told Sarah I want a nice big large one. Cheers, brother. Cheers. For being together in this beautiful friggin' God's country we got out here. For those of you who like, places in the Midwest that are not too far away, like if you're in Chicago, the Crosse is like 4.5, 5 hour drive, 5.5, depending on how many times you stop. But it's really well worth it. The air is super fresh. You got the Mississippi River here. You have a lot of bluffs. Like just driving down the roads here is a visual like pleasure. It's beautiful. The people here are very nice. It's just a great place to get away. You got a lot of places you could stay out here at hotels.
Yes.
Got the Charmant right down there on. Is that on the Mississippi?
That is.
Yeah,
That
the
is
Charmant.
Mississippi.
So shout out to the Charmant folks there. I believe you know the
Sure,
ownership
Mr.
there.
Weber and them, the Weber Group. Yep.
Yeah, shout out to the Weber family. And so if you ever wanted to come here, great place to stay. College town, good bars, good entertainment,
Sure.
all that good stuff. And so speaking of which, we went out to, what was the name of the restaurant we were at last night?
It's Red Pines, and I think it's as well a former retired, I think he might have been a full bird or colonel.
No kidding.
Retired out of Fort McCoy, and some of his memorabilia from the military is in there. It was in the front room by the bar, but we sat in the back last night. But it's really good. It's one of the only few that I consider like a supper club for this area. And we had some really good food there last night, some steaks and some shrimp. And yeah, it was just really tasty. And pizza fries were really good. I have to give a shout out to them. And they have tons of craft beers and wines, and they have a great selection of everything there, and non-alcoholic stuff as well. But it's just a great atmosphere, and it's always busy, so they do a really good job.
Yeah, they did. I mean, you were right. Just when we got into the parking lot, there wasn't really that many spaces out there. And when we got in, it was pretty full. There was a few tables kind of here and there that were empty. But the food was great, man. Like, I looked at it, and it seemed like kind of like a bar menu, but they did have stuff that wasn't your typical bar food.
Sure.
So, like, you guys had a nice sirloin steak with some mixed vegetables. And what else did you have with that?
Shrimp.
Oh, yeah, this shrimp. Yeah, so surf and turf with a sirloin. And then there was, did you have rice too with that or no?
No, we didn't have rice. Tammy got the soup, though, the clam chowder as well. And then we just had the pizza fries. So
yeah, those pizza fries. So just for the listeners out there, these pizza fries, it's like a very thin crust pizza, almost like a flatbread. And I don't think they had any sauce in there. It was just the cheese and the breading.
Sure.
And they gave us a really good marinara on the side. Those things, we took out two of them, and I think they were maybe 10, 12 inches each. Between the four of us, we got two of them and ate them all. Man, were they good.
Yeah, we demolished them.
They were good. You know what I mean? If it was another day, maybe we'd even do like a third or whatever.
Sure.
Because they were that good. And then I ordered, I had the chop steak, which is basically like a hamburger.
Yep.
They cooked my medium. It was perfect. And they covered it in sauteed mushrooms and peppers. And God bless America, that shit was fire, son. And then it had on the side just a nice mixed vegetables with easy seasoning and the rice. And I don't know if they put like a little au jus on there or something, or if it was just the au jus from the steak, the chop steak, but it made it like much more digestible and more palatable. It was just so good, man. So good. Yeah, and not only that, but the table that we had a beautiful view of the river there, or whatever that was.
The Black River.
Yeah. The Black River, yeah. So we're right there on the Black River, and it's all covered in snow, super picturesque, and it's just nice to do these short getaways. So a friend of mine, really good guy, he's a home inspector back in Chicago, Jose Sanchez, shout out to him. He's told me before that in this business that I'm in the real estate industry, that it's hard to get away for long periods of time, but to avoid burnout, you need to take short, frequent breaks. So the last break I took where I was out of town was we went up to the North Woods where we have our family summer home, and we went there in October, kind of shut the place down. As soon as we left, they came by to winterize the cabin, and we had a great time, got in a little golf, enjoyed the last of the warm weather, because up north, the farther north you get, it's different kind of cold. Like they get cold quicker, they get snow quicker than we do, and it's not even too much farther. Like from here, it's 200 miles or something.
That's not far.
Yeah, not that far, but the weather does get different there. It's pretty crazy.
That's the snow belt. Anything north of Highway 8 in Wisconsin, you're up north. And then they get a lot of snow all the way up to the UP. So that's when you hit the north part of Wisconsin, up past Highway 8. And you're past Highway 8, up by the Superior, Duluth Iron Belt. So, because you're not far from there.
The Iron Range.
Yep, the Iron Range. Yep. You're close to there. So, yep.
Yeah, I just learned something new right now. I didn't know when you say north of Highway 8, the weather does change.
It does.
It's more more hardcore, I guess, than it would be here.
It's more remote, more desolate, not a lot of facilities, not a lot of like internet. It's more, it's desolate. You're in northern Wisconsin. There's probably more critters than people. So it's the Northwood.
Yeah.
Yep.
You might be right about that. It's they call it the North Woods, and then like you said, you have the Iron Range up there too. Beautiful country up there, man. We go up there. There's no pollution. There's not a lot of lights, so you can see almost every star in the sky. And we were lucky when we were up. I believe it was October. We were up a few times this past year in 2021, and there was meteor showers. So Sarah and I would sit there every few minutes. You'd count maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 of them would go by.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really cool, really peaceful. Nobody bothers you. The neighbors up there are really cool, man. They're like my golf buddies. They help us do, like my one neighbor, he's a carpenter. Well, actually, both of them are. But, shout out to Sean Klink and his family. And shout out to Pete, Tiny Pete. It's just a misnomer because the guy's like 6'4", 6'5", and like probably a good 300 pounds. I've never seen a man lift up a washer and dryer off the flatbed of a truck only with his hands. Like, he wrapped his arms around it, lifted it up, and went and squatted and put it down. I'm like, God bless, man. That's strength and size, because I couldn't get my arms around that thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Just tossing it like weights.
Yeah, it was a sight to see. He had his truck there, and he's like, yeah, my old lady, got these washers and dryers, and they were in pretty good condition. They're newer, it wasn't just like some old stuff. But he's like, she brought them home, and we'll, just fix them, clean them up a bit, and sell them and make some money. I said, good for you, man. Get your hustle. But really impressive to see a guy lift up each one of them. I mean, I'm sure, but it didn't look like a struggle, but I'm sure, you feel the weight of it. But he did it like it was no big deal. I'm like, holy Christ. I'm glad that man has a good temper, because if he didn't, Lord help us. You know what I mean? You need a good few guys to restrain that dude.
Sure.
But
that'd be the old song, "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" with him around.
Yeah.
Throwing him around.
Dude, that's a guy who can clean out a room.
Right. Quickly.
I haven't heard that song in forever. What a good one that is.
That is a good one.
High energy.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That's been around for a while.
Oh yeah. It comes on serious. We did that trip out to Montana snowmobiling last week, and that was on there quite a bit. Driving 17 hours on Sirius, some of the metal stations, but it's cool. Listen to them old school songs. So most of them from Chicago, but they're still around. I think Chevelle's still playing.
Probably.
I think so. I think Lincoln Park's about done, huh?
Well,
are they still around?
No, man. I mean, if they do, it's with a different singer.
Right.
Because, of course, right away, I know when you said that, that he, Chester passed away, committed suicide. Really sad, because, you think about these people, you're like, wow, you're kind of the pinnacle, right? You've worked hard, you become known, you have this ultra successful band that had huge hits, and they were like, you listen to them, start touching your heart, because you think about the stuff that the guy was writing is kind of like a prediction of the future, a premonition of the future. You never know. There's so many singers of these bands, we could go on and on, who either passed away of drug overdoses or who, committed suicide, and he was one of them. And really sad, man, because I feel like they didn't even, achieve their full potential, because they could have made great music for years and years to come. But, we're blessed that we're left with the stuff that they did make, and that we have it to kind of fire us up on these runs and, stuff that you do with the workouts and snowmobiles. And there's studies, I think, that show that, music like that, it will pump you up and kind of help you take it to the next level. You have that positive energy reinforcement while you're exercising. You might be able to get out that extra mile or that extra, few reps on your weights and stuff. So you said you were snowmobiling in Montana?
So my buddy Adam and I, he's going to stop overnight. He's from here, French Island, over by the airport in La Crosse area. We took a trip from here out to West Yellowstone, which is on the border, basically 3 states, Wyoming, the Tetons, it's a national park. We were right by Yellowstone National Park, right outside it, called West Yellowstone. And actually to drive down there, you cut into West Yellowstone as well, just on the boundary of the park driving. And then We did about a 4-day trip out there snowmobiling, and we had our own snowmobiles here. I got a couple from here in Wisconsin, I've owned for years, and we put on about 600 miles. We rode a lot of Idaho, which was beautiful, and then we were able to make it all the way to the Continental Divide, which separates Idaho and Montana. It's pretty cool. It's a national park out there, and got some pictures. It was a really good trip. It was safe. Altitude's higher out there, so the sleds definitely perform different. We had to rejet one of them because it's carbureted, and mine's fuel injected, so it didn't have no issues. But just the vistas and the views, and they get so much snow up in the mountains. The trees turn into ghost trees. They're just all white, which is a sight to see itself. And
Does that interfere with your ability to drive the?
no, it doesn't. Yeah. No. The worst thing was the first day we got there, second day, it was like misting up in the mountains.
Yeah.
So our face shields get like frosted on, because they can be heated on the inside to keep you from breathing and fog them, but the outside, it won't help that. So you had to keep wiping them. So it can be dangerous, but we still got in close to 150 miles a day riding like that. It was pretty cool, but we definitely had to be careful. So it was definitely a cautious day, but still a good ride. So it was nice. And then we ended up heading out Sunday because the traffic just got bad. So in West Yellowstone, it's beautiful for anybody to go out there. So you can rent snowmobiles and do guided tours out there,
Perfect.
which is cool. Yeah. So if anybody ever wants to do it.
And they should be in tip-top shape. If they're going to rent you something, I think they tune it up ahead of time.
They do, and they have great sleds, and then they have guides, and they give you all the gear and that. So I recommend anybody that ever wants to do it. I mean, it's definitely a bucket list, and I've been so blessed to do many things in life, actually, to use my own equipment out there, so I don't have to pay a little extra to rent them. But if anybody has the funds to do that and wants to do that, I encourage it. I met people from Georgia, I think Alabama, so there's a lot of people from the South that come there just to do that, to ride snowmobiles in winter. So it was a cool trip just to talk to people. And of course, I met tons of people from Minnesota, Wisconsin that were out there riding as well, pulling their own equipment. But just the views and vistas is worth it. And I recommend anybody to do that in the summer if they're able to drive out there to Yellowstone, because it's beautiful. I actually went out there last summer, and it was one of the best trips I've done in a long time. So it's gorgeous out west. So that was that trip. So
yeah, I have a friend back home, an attorney friend of mine. He's been to Yellowstone. He's been to a couple of the different national parks, and he highly recommended it to me. And I'll mention it to him. See if he wants to do a snowmobile trip one time. He's a man's man too. His family was into rental housing, and he witnessed a lot growing up and learned a lot about business, and then became an attorney. But he's also a concealed carry instructor.
Oh, nice.
Gave an incredible course. So Felix Gonzalez, shout out to him. He was on the podcast, I think my third episode. And I'm going to have him back again soon to talk about evictions, because in addition to do the real estate closings like me, he also does evictions. And so he's more up on the current law, which was tough because in Chicago, Illinois, they treat the tenants more like the owners of the building than you as a landlord. And it's tough, man. It really is, because times are tough. You got a mortgage to pay. You're sweating about paying the bills, even if people are getting laid off because of COVID, or just deciding not to pay you because they know that they can't be kicked out. So now we're going to talk about kind of the updates on that. But he's a real outdoorsy guy too. So I'll kind of mention that to him, that it's an option. You should go up there and rent. You don't even have to have your own snowmobile.
You don't.
Just pay and go for the day, pay by the day or whatever. I wouldn't mind doing it myself. I actually just want to get to the national parks just to like either drive through or hike or whatever. But I wouldn't mind going snowmobiling. The only thing is, like, I would have to be careful about getting hurt, because I have a lot of clients that I'm responsible to, and first and foremost, my wife and my mom and my brothers.
Sure.
Like, they depend on me to come home safely, at the end of the day, and so I take that very seriously. And I wouldn't be able to keep up with you guys, because how fast do you go when you're?
Oh, well, the trails in Montana are marked at 45.
Yeah. And
they're pretty turny. I mean, you should keep it around there because there is a lot of turns, and then there's a lot of traffic on them trails. So 45 is fast enough there, but I mean, there's stretches you could go a lot faster. But we're pretty advanced riders. I've been riding these things. I probably got well over 10,000 miles on a snowmobile. But anyways, to that,
on the new one or the old one?
just riding them in general over the
general.
years. Yeah, this year I'm close to 1,500. I might do a trip next weekend in northern Wisconsin. That'll be it for the year, because we're just not getting the snow down in this area, in the La Crosse area and south. So you either have to trailer them or or trailer them or not ride them, one or the other. So
Has it been a mild few winters? I know this one's mild.
no, actually last winter this county wasn't open much, but south of here all the way to Illinois border you could have rode. You could have rode from Viroqua, which is Vernon County, all the way down through Madison, all the way down to Illinois and back. That's a lot.
During this winter?
Last winter.
Last winter.
Yeah, this winter's crap. So you have to go up past Highway 8 really to find snow, or to Upper Michigan where I rode 2 weeks before that. I rode about 800 miles into UP, which was nice, but I definitely think Yellowstone, there's just much more to see in Yellowstone because you have the mountains. The UP's pretty, but it's basically logging trails and tons of trails, but they get a lot of snow up there too. So it's great to ride your snowmobiles when you can ride them. But from an aspect of just nature, Yellowstone's definitely the top. So that I've rode, and I've rode a lot of snowmobiles over the years.
Well, that's saying a lot, so
Yeah.
that'll be probably maybe a stretch goal for me, you know,
Sure.
to do that one. So do you have a friend that has a trailer, or because your snowmobile is in the driveway, it's
Right.
on a trailer already, right? Did you hook it up to your own hitch, or how?
Well, I have a little one piece, but I used my buddy Dodge Ram. He has shout out to Sean, and the 2016. But the snowmobile that we pulled 2 of them out to West Yellowstone, which took us about 18 hours from Wisconsin here. We used the club trailer from the soccer field I used to work at, and it's a really big flat aluminum trailer, and we were able to put both sleds on there no problem and pull them out there. So that's how we got them out there.
Was it just you and him, or did you have a couple other buddies driving separately?
No, it was just me and Adam this time. Yep. So, and then the last trip I went up to UP was 8 of us, but I pulled my own with the Honda up to the Upper Peninsula, so which made it no problem. You know, I went through central Wisconsin all the way up there. It was about like 5 hours from here to UP.
To UP?
Yeah, but
That's not too bad.
No,
You have to
it
go
wasn't
over to
bad
what,
at all.
Green Bay side and go around?
Actually, I went up to Wausau and straight up.
Okay.
Yep. And then from Wausau, I think it was 3 hours, maybe 3.5. So
No, that's not bad.
No.
You grew up in Wausau?
I did central Wisconsin. Yep.
We'll chat more about that in
Sure.
a little bit.
Yep.
Well, man, that's awesome. I know you like that, you know, doing that, and it's part of the active lifestyle you live, but it's really cool, man. Get out there and kind of being in nature and, you know, not being enclosed in a car and going places through the woods that you just can't go with a car, you know?
Yeah, I always equate it to, you know, a lot of people in the Midwest, and not just the Midwest, but it's a big culture here with the Harley Davidsons and riding on the river roads and things like that around here. And it's just an escape from everyday grind. But snowmobiling, you get to see so much more because you're on people's private property, and you get to travel on their farm fields or whatever it may be. Yep, and then forests, state parks, whatever it may be. And it's just, you see so many things you wouldn't see on a public road, whether you're on a motorcycle, you know, or a car or whatever you're driving, or a truck. You're just not going to see the things you can see on a snowmobile. That's why I love it. So it's always an adventure. The wildlife you see, you can come upon deer all the time, turkeys, whatever in the Midwest, you'll see it on a snowmobile, where a lot of times you're not going to see that driving your car around. So,
No, that's awesome, man, because you've been up to our summer house, and we'll have you up this summer. About 150 yards from the house, it used to be train tracks. So it was an old railroad, because years ago, before we had, you know, planes and, you know, good automobiles, people would just take the train, you know, through the countryside to get wherever they needed to go. And so, you know, as that kind of aged out, they still have a train line there, but they've moved it east of where I'm at, and the old railroad tracks have been removed. They use them for, you know, ATVs in the summer, and then in the winter, I believe it's all snowmobile trails too. So it's a lot of great stuff to see up there in the North Woods and get through. So that's all going on right over by our place. But well, anyhow, we got these gifts. I'm going to show you little by little. I covered them up here. I don't think the viewers can even see that stuff in the video. But first one was actually one that I found in the North Woods. My friend had one of these, and I asked him where he got it, and he said he got it at Jack Link's Beef Jerky.
Yeah.
So we have the next town over from where our summer home is at is where the headquarters for Jack Link's Beef Jerky is, where they have their, you know, main manufacturing facility. And so they like to do a lot of branding. Like, I have one of my little duffel bags upstairs that I keep some of my stuff in, is Jack Link's. They have a great center there in Minong where I go to work and exercise and stuff. Huge pool, the whole deal. And so they had this branded stuff, and I'm like, man, where'd you get that? And he's like, I got it at Jack Link's, dude. They were giving them out. It was just like a promotional thing. So this is a tactical flashlight. It's got a lot of things on it, and it's also it's solar rechargeable. So if you were stuck in the woods or you're camping, you can leave it out, and it will
nice.
charge with solar. And then by the time the evening is there, it's ready to go. So you can charge it via USB. Also, if you wanted to charge your cell phone, you can hook it in there.
That's slick.
And it'll charge solar while you're out in the woods. So if you needed to plug in while you're camping, if you just let this charge solar, you can run a
That's
USB
awesome.
to your cell phone. It has so much stuff. So we'll start at the top. First of all, as a flashlight, this thing's like a spotlight. So it's 1,000 lumens.
Oof.
They have one that had adjustable on there where you could adjust the shape of it.
Yeah.
I didn't find it, and I guess I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I was trying to get them online with the adjustable, and unfortunately, I couldn't get them. They were on back order or whatever. But I started buying them just the regular old thing. So this is 1,000 lumens. It's great because if you're out in the woods walking at night, which we are sometimes in the Northland, you need something that's bright enough that's going to catch like animals that might be around, or see things in the distance, so you're warned ahead of time. So great flashlight in and of itself. I think this is meant to be kept in the center console of a car. So if you're driving and you go off the road, like so in northern Wisconsin where we're at, there's a lot of bridges that go over rivers. It's the land of 1,000 lakes up there, so you can go fishing like in any direction from where you're at. Pardon me. So on the top here, let's say you went off the road and you end up in the water and your car's starting to take on water and it's filling up and you're stuck inside. If you need, there's a seatbelt cutter on this side.
Oh, sweet.
So it's got the razor in there. You line it up with the seatbelt and you would slice that. So now you're out of your seatbelt if you have to slice on the waist belt as well. Then, if you're stuck inside the car and it's taking on water, you have a window breaker here. So if this was in the console and you were stuck in, you can slice your seatbelt, bust the window, and get out of your car before you're fully filled with water. And then it has a magnet on the top. So let's say you're just on the side of the road and you need to work on a flat tire or something, you can stick this to your car and aim the light where you need it. So even if you're on your own, you don't have somebody to help you hold the light or whatever, the magnet sticks right to your car.
That's nice.
Yes, and it has two different kinds of lights. So it has the main light if you need to kind of aim that down. This on the side also lights up. So if you needed a light to just kind of shine outward or put it up in the wheel well and aim it downward, you can magnetize it that way. It also has a strobe light on there. Let's say somebody was coming at you and they were getting closer and closer, and you just need to kind of mess up their visual.
Yeah.
You got a strobe on
That's
there.
awesome.
It also has, if you want to mess with people like it's the police, it has the red, white, and blue lights. I don't recommend you do that. You probably get in trouble for like false impersonation. And it also has a compass on the bottom.
That's awesome.
So for the listeners and the viewers out there, the brand that I got online is NPET. So Nancy, Peter, Edward, Thomas on this brand. So for the viewers out there, it's a small thing. If you ever needed to use it as a weapon too, if somebody's trying to attack you, you could try to flash them with the strobe and then maybe hit them with this as well. It's got some good weight in it. So I got you one of those. It's brand new in the box. I'll kind of bust that out. So
Thank you. That is super cool.
put that bad boy down there. Yes, because it does so many things in one.
That's what I like about it.
So, that's the last one there. I forgot the order I put them in. So the flashlight was in the middle. So you got a brand new one of those bad boys here. Here's what it looks like when it arrives from Amazon.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
brother.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that.
I thought you'd
is
like
awesome.
it.
Yeah, I like all the uses it has. That's what's really cool. about
Yeah,
it.
have it with you when you're out on these
Yep.
snowmobile rides.
Somebody
And
thought about that.
Yeah, and that could be a good gift for your buddies around here too,
Yeah.
because it has so many things in one. To me, it seems more like a military type of
does.
flashlight, right?
It's military grade.
If I was out in the field, that's what I'd want. And then I got you a couple books here too. A few good ones, the classics. So the first one here I have, this is one I've been wanting to give you for a while. I actually had it in a FedEx mailer that was just sitting at my house. So the thing about me is being a busy attorney is that my dad had this old saying, it's like the shoemaker's children's are the last one to get their shoes. Meaning that like my own personal stuff kind of comes last because I take care of the client's business, my staff, pay the government, all these, all the shit I got to do as part of running a business. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the author is Robert T. Kiyosaki. So this guy's great. He has several books, but this was the first one he did, and I think it's a foundation for a lot of other things he did. So I'm going to hold that up. It's kind of hard to see in the camera there, where because we're in the limelight here, which is a beautiful thing. It feels like an Irish pub down here. You can see all the beautiful decorations in the background. Steve, if there's nothing else, he is an incredible decorator. He's neat and orderly, learned it in the military, and everything's where it should be. But yeah, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This book is like people who I work with that are investors or real estate investors. This is like their Bible. It's kind of their foundation. So in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the author Robert has two fathers, his biological father and his friend's father who lives down the street. And he starts, he's young, he's smart, and he's learning the differences between his own father and his friend's father.
Okay.
And the difference is that his own father is a professor at a university, very smart, he's successful, but he never really got ahead because as his pay increased, his life standard of living would increase as well. So he had a nice car, he had a nice house, but he didn't really have investments or anything to show for it. And the other father is his friend's father, and he's like a business guy. So he started several businesses. He had a lot of people working for him, and he said to his friend, he's like, how do we learn to be like your dad? So he approached his dad, and he said, I'll teach you how. He's like, give me a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to have you guys come down to one of my convenience stores I own, and I'll just have you do work around there. So he was paying them very little, but they learned a lot of these lessons from him. And the main lessons are how to see opportunities to make money everywhere around you. So he starts telling these stories as he's a kid at the convenience store that he worked at. When the comic books the new ones would come in, they would just toss out the old ones or they would cut them up. So instead of doing that, him and his friend took the comic books and they started selling them to the other kids at the grade school at a discount price.
Peddling.
Yes, and then when they got so busy with that, they hired one of their classmates to run the little store that they had in a basement or wherever they had this at. And so they paid her a wage, but they were still making profit by all the comic books they were selling. And
entrepreneur spirit.
Yes, that's what this book is all about. And this guy has since become an investor in all sorts of businesses. Yeah. And he said that once you start to see that opportunity around you, you'll always have that. You'll never lose that. Right. So you'll be able to see those economic opportunities. And I thought that as a man who is wise with his money, this would be one that you would really like.
I will.
So it has a lot of stuff in there. So I'll hand that over your way.
Thank you.
I think you'll like it. It's not a long book, and it's the print is decent size.
Sure.
So great book. I think you'll really enjoy it as a read. Maybe now that the winter's kind of winding down, you can sit outside with a nice beer on the porch and just relax and read.
Thank you.
The other one is an incredible book. It's called Chaos Under Heaven, and this is by a journalist named Josh Rogan. He works for CNN, which is like taboo in my opinion because I don't trust those fuckers as far as I could throw them. But the book is incredible. I saw him on the Rogan podcast, and he was kind of, Rogan has a lot of people on to promote books. And so what this talks about is that for many years, China has been growing economically and militarily. But what he talks a lot about is how they've infiltrated our society without us even really knowing it. And one of the scariest things that was in this book is that unbeknownst to us, through the military and state pension funds, they're actually investing in companies that are not allowed to be traded here on the New York Stock Exchange because they won't open their books and be honest about their business, so they don't have the disclosure requirements they would need to be traded on American soil at a New York Stock Exchange. But their funds are traded and their stocks are traded around the world. But we're basically investing in the very companies that they're using to build their naval ships and the weapons that they're, could possibly use one day against us. And they also talk right at the end, because during the pandemic, he had a lot of time to write. So it's super well written. All his sources and stuff are listed in the back of the book. But he talks about when the pandemic hit, that appears that at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China, where it's, just in my opinion, most likely where the virus came from. I don't think it was a bat that bit a penguin and walked 1,000 miles into Wuhan in a wet market, right? That's the story they originally want us to believe. But in any event, he says that it appears based on the evidence, not admissions by China or the U.S., it appears that the coronavirus research and editing of these viruses had been going on a long time before, for years now, before the coronavirus even hit here in America. And he also talks about the fact that, or what he alleges as fact is that U.S. dollars were probably funding the research over there because they don't want that type of research on those coronaviruses going on here. It has a little bit, but not as much as it has. They're literally, the Wuhan Institute of Virology is, they've been researching these bat coronaviruses for many years. Great read. It takes you through the early Trump days into the end when all this stuff with coronavirus was really getting bad. They mentioned in there that Trump did want to come down hard on China, but did not really do that until the last year of his presidency when the coronavirus started hitting, because I think he was concerned that he was going to lose the presidency, which he eventually did. And he had hardliners. They were like pro-America people in his cabinet, in his inner circle, but they were getting talked down or talked over by the ultra-rich people, like his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who has all these business ties in China. Like, don't do that.
Right.
It's going to be terrible for our business.
Sure.
So it sounds like, unfortunately, the theme with China is that business interests win out over the interests of national security in America and citizens like you and I. Incredible read.
I haven't read that.
Books. I had a hard time putting it down. So how you binge watch shows. There's nights where even I have shit to do the next day, and I would stay up late reading that.
Well, thank you. I'll be reading that starting Monday. I love to read in the winter.
That might be actually a better one to read before Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Another book that I want to either get for you or that I recommend is Leadership by John C. Maxwell. So I work with my friend Luis Ortiz. He's one of the number one realtors in Illinois and one of the number one realtors nationwide. The guy sells several hundred homes each year. He has a team of 14, 15 agents or 30 agents or whatever it is. And he gave that to me because we were trading books, and I brought him one day. He's like, let me see what I got for you. This one is a leadership lesson for every day, and it's tied in with the Bible as well. So they'll put a Bible verse, and I personally have a hard time interpreting the Bible, but John Maxwell kind of translates it for you and tells you how to apply it in everyday life. So one really valuable skill that I learned out of there is how to give constructive criticism to my team where you're not like hurting them or whatever, but letting them know that your motivations are good,
not
that it's
them.
worthwhile, what you're talking to them about, and telling them, encouraging them, like, I know you're capable of this and all that. So I at first I was like, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it. And when I did, I'm reading it basically every day. In fact, I haven't gotten to it yet, but when we were relaxing after the podcast, I'm in a journal. I'm up to date on my journal up until the events of last night. And then after I'm done journaling, I read that.
Nice.
And so the incredible takeaways. I only wish if we could go back in time when you were in leadership in the military, if I could have gave you that. It's just, it's incredible. I don't know. I'd have to research the author a little bit to see more about like who he is and what he does.
Right.
But his lessons for leadership are invaluable. I mean, super invaluable. So incredible book, and it's very affordable. I'm going to see, do you know if you have like a, what do they call it?
We have Barnes & Noble.
Well, Barnes & Noble, they might have
that.
it, or there's another one, Half Price Books.
I don't think we have one of them around here.
We'll look, because Half Price Books is where, like, if you have old books you don't read anymore, you just want to get rid of them, they'll give you a few bucks. It's like a thrift shop of books and records and CDs and all that. Yeah, video games. They would probably have it for a great price. So we'll look around for that.
Okay.
Because if I can get you that while we're here, it's invaluable.
Sure.
Really invaluable about everyday life, and it's inspiring. So after the books, the last thing I have for you, I think you're really going to like.
Yep.
And it cost me a lot. So I got these shirts at a golf course, and the guy was new there. He didn't know how to adjust the price because they had a ton of them sitting there. He's like, dude, I feel bad that I'm going to be charging you this much for these. He was trying to, the owner, or like the manager, was like somewhere around there, but he couldn't get the guy to come in because he wanted to give me a break. But I said, whatever, man. I can't believe I'm paying this much for 4 shirts because I got 2 of the same ones for myself and 2 of the same ones for you because I knew you'd love them. Yeah. So here they go. You can hold them up for the... oh,
sweet.
For the...
I love that one.
For the viewers out there, actually, I'll hold it up. So this is a nice White Sox polo that you can wear out on the golf course.
I love it.
It's a nice breathable material. Yeah. It's perfect for when you want to look dressy.
That's awesome.
But also, be comfortable and cool. So incredible.
That's beautiful.
It is, right? I wear it sometimes even when I'm going to real estate closings around the office in the spring and summer. And then lastly,
Oh, there it is.
Valentine's Day
Thank
red.
you.
When
That's
you're out on the
sweet,
golf
dude.
course, if you want to look
I
good.
can't believe you got these.
Yeah, and look it on the sleeve,
The old
man.
Hawks. I see that.
They have the on the sleeves. They have the tomahawks
Yep,
crossed.
Tomahawks.
Incredible.
That's awesome. Thank you so
shirt
much.
There, I thought you'd like them because
Oh, I
know
love it.
It's dressier.
Yeah.
And it's also something you can wear on the golf course and have
That
a
is
good
so
time.
nice.
So
I really appreciate that.
I thought you'd like those.
Oh, I
those
love them.
too.
Yeah.
If they're classy,
I don't deserve this stuff.
breathable. You sure
Yeah.
do, man.
That's nice.
You're like I said, you're like the older brother I never had, and so I just was thinking
That's
of
awesome.
stuff that you'd like that you could use in your everyday life, and so those were some of them.
Thank you very much. And also, back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. I actually listened to his podcast. So for the viewers out there, he actually has a really good podcast, and he talks about what's going on in the world with money. He's very smart, like you said, about investing and learning how to make your money work for you.
Yes.
From everything from crypto to where he thinks the markets are going, and he thinks the market's in for a big turn. He talked about that for at least the last year, because I do listen to him. So he's very interesting. So I'm going to really dive into his book and see what he really talks about entrepreneur. That's pretty neat, because I kind of want to get into that now that I have more time, being semi-retired from the military. And we can talk about that later, some of my goals. I got like 5 of them written down that I want to start probably in the next 2 or 3 years. Some sooner, some later, but I wrote down 5. But thanks for all that. And for you, my brother, I got you some nice things that I hope you like. The first one is just a nice Irish hat.
That's awesome.
78. Martin Truex, he used to be a really good NASCAR driver. Just a cool Irish lucky hat. I know you'll like that.
Perfect.
And then something for you to
the,
wear on the south side, Irish Parade or whatever. And then, so I was going to wear this
awesome.
today, but this is where our grandmother's from. And I know you'll wear this. Our grandmother's from Enniskillen, Fermanagh. That's their colors and their shield. I know you'll look good in this, and then you can rock this around the south side. So it's just some Irish pride in the north there. 6 counties are still controlled by the UK, and that's one of them. But I get up there and visit them. I was there 3 times during the pandemic, and I picked this up. I just thought you would like this shirt.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
But yeah, the pride of Fermanagh. They're not as good as the Kilkenny, where your father's from. Bless Uncle Nick. But they still try pretty hard at football and rugby and all their other sports, hurling.
Did you get this when you were in?
I did. I got that over there. So
That's awesome.
It's pretty
so
cool.
Right from Ireland, man.
Yep.
This is really cool.
It's a pretty cool thing.
Very cool.
Yep. And then
Adidas.
Adidas. You rocked Adidas, and I got you some things that I've read as well over the last few years.
I can't wait. I think I know what one of them is.
Yeah.
I hope I know what it is. But
So I took a break from running probably since I retired. I just did some short runs. And then I bought an electric bike, and I was a groundskeeper for the last 3 years for a soccer complex, 50 acres, 16 fields. So pretty good job for me. I just currently resigned from that because I want to pursue some other things. And I'm currently just sub-teaching, and I coach softball in the area. I'd love to give back to our youth and anyone that wants to be mentored at that point, because that's probably where I'm going to go with motivational speaking in the next few years. But I read this book 2 years ago. I think it was 2 winters ago, before the pandemic or during the pandemic. And David Goggins, he's an inspiration to a lot of people. I kind of can relate to his childhood, not on some of the dark aspects, but on the aspects of pretty much just raising myself, because my parents were too busy doing what they had to do just to survive, moving around a lot, not having a lot of role models. And, he comes from nothing and made himself, and now he's one of the top ultra runners in the world. I don't know if he's still competing, but it's a pretty amazing story, just what he went through to become a Navy SEAL and just all his life lessons. So I know you would like to read this. It's a very good read. That's a book I couldn't put down. That's a book I couldn't put down. So you'll really like that.
Well, this has been one that I've been wanting to get for a while, and I'm glad you got it for me, because it's like one of those things where if I put it on the back burner, I don't get it. But
Sure.
I'm really looking forward to reading this, because he's an inspirational figure, and he shows you what's possible, and he continues to do it. And probably an individual with one of the strongest minds in the world.
Yeah.
You won't be able to see this when I hold it up to the camera, but there's a silhouette of David Goggins when he weighed about 300 pounds. And he went from being 300 pounds and you know, I mean, he looks like a strong guy at 300 pounds, but not in his best shape. And then it goes down into him in his Navy SEAL uniform, which is like pure white. His all his decorations on there, and he's slim as could be. So he's slim, probably super strong. He has one of those like kind of unbreakable wills where he's like, my mind is stronger than the body, which is actually a dangerous thing sometimes. And some people overdo it with their body because mentally they're like, I'm just gonna push and make this machine go. But the title of the book is Can't Hurt Me. David Goggins, New York Times bestseller, over 3 million copies sold. Master your mind and defy the odds. So I cannot wait to read this because, you know, I'm getting back in shape myself, and I can't, you know, tell you enough how good it feels just to lift weights, man. I'm like, why did I deprive myself of this for so many years? Why did I not make time to do this? Because I would be in much better shape now. But when I lift weights and I see the results in the mirror and I see how I feel in my body, and then cardio as well, I've been slacking on my cardio this week, but I've been making sure that if I'm lifting weights or doing weighted carries up the stairs, my legs will be strong enough to get back on the treadmill when the time comes. But
Sure.
I'm really excited about that.
That's a great book.
This will be one of my next ones because I'm reading a book on meditation now. As soon as I finish that, I think this will be my next one.
Yeah, he's into a lot of stuff. He had a Guinness World Record for pull-ups. I don't know if he still has it. He's a person of great man of perseverance and willpower, and he gets into the untapped brain that says you can do things more than you think you can. He says I think if I quote him correctly, 60% we don't use of our mental capacity, and then we just quit because we think it's too hard. And it's so true, and I could speak to that real quick. I did a 100K down in Texas, about a little over 60 miles, and there's always points when you get to a certain area, people say it's hitting a wall where you want to quit. It's easy to quit, but the way I attack things is if you went into it this far and you're physically hurting, that's fine. But if you're not physically broken where you need to go see medical care, you can still carry on and get fixed at the end if it's basic things, you know, like blisters, bad toenails, bruising, whatever it may be, sore hips, whatever it may be, because your mind can carry you through some of your physical ailments. And a lot of people don't understand that, or a lot of people don't want to push their bodies to that point, and they'll just quit when it starts to hurt. So, and he's all about that. I mean, I think he did the Moab 240 or one of them crazy ultra distance runs, and then they found out afterwards he had a hole in his heart. So, and he talks about it in that book.
I did hear that.
Yep,
I think you were talking about it, Rogan.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool what he's been through and just an inspiration to others. And you know, I don't think I'm driven quite to his level of ultra runner. Right. I do want to do a 100-mile. That's my goal. I'm going to do the Mid-State 100 in the next few years, which is it's from New Hampshire all the way down to Rhode Island. You run all the way in the fall. It'd be beautiful. That is my goal in the next 2 or 3 years to do that. But this guy does 240-mile runs, which to me, I don't have a desire to do that. But
insane.
That's insane to me as well. But to them, super ultra, it's not insane to them. So that's just what they thrive to do. So it's pretty cool. But you'll enjoy that. He talks about life lessons when he was a child, for how hard it was with his mom, and they grew up near Buffalo, New York, and he had a really tough childhood with his father. So just a great read. So you'll enjoy it.
I'm really looking forward to it, and I think probably my guess would be that what he kind of tells you is being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And a lot of people, the reason they give up and stuff is because they haven't been tested before. And so when they get to that point where they feel like they can't go on anymore, or they can't do this or that, it's just because they've never been tested in that way. Right. And they don't realize that they can get beyond that, or they can push even farther. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, and you'll like that. And another thing about that, and I noticed this, I notice it with youth when I coach in that, and it's good to get people out of that at a young age. It's okay to fail. Failure is the best. It's the best teacher. It's good to fail if you want to learn and grow from it. If you think it's just a setback and you don't want to do that again, well, then you're going to have a fixed mindset. And you have an open mindset and a fixed mindset or a closed mindset. And the ones that don't grow from their failures becomes fixed. And then the ones that want to grow from it, they're more open to it. So I notice that a lot in our youth. So, and it's getting them to understand that at a young age. And I wish I would have knew that at a younger age, that it's okay to fail and try again. But you have to have people that, inspire you to do that. foster that, basically make that okay, that it's okay to fail, because failure is good. That's how we grow and get better if we want to. So that's one thing I've noticed as well. And he talks a lot about that because he didn't want to fail in a lot of things, and you're going to read about that. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's in the book, but he was scared of that, and he just wanted to fit in society, as we all do, because he was from different backgrounds of where he was growing up, so he just wanted to fit in, and he wasn't always doing the right things to fit in, and sometimes we're like that, but it's okay to be different, and he shows us now that we can be ourselves, but we can exceed so much more than we think we can if we try. And that's really what he does. He tries and he overcomes some amazing things. So that's David Goggins. There's so many more ultra runners out there I really inspire to model my behavior at and run and put one foot in front of the other. But he's one of my favorites. I don't need to be motivated to do things, but he inspires me to do things because his story is pretty remarkable. So, and I can take some things from him as well because I kind of grew up a little bit like he did. So
we'll be talking about that too, I think.
Yep.
In just a moment, once we get through these,
sure, and
we will dive into your beginnings and your origins
Yep.
all the way through retirement and beyond.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and it's a blessing to be here to talk to you about that. But I have one more gift for you.
Okay.
Another Mick. I don't know if he's Scottish, Irish, or what he is, but William H. McRaven. I read his book, Make Your Bed, and it says it up top here. This is another great admiral, retired general. He actually was the special operations commander for the SEALs while he was in. That was his last assignment. Great read, Make Your Bed. But I want you to read this one. It's called The Hero Code. I have not read this yet. It's his new one. But he was his YouTube speech at the University of Texas Longhorns probably within the last 7 years. It's on YouTube if you guys want to watch it. It's great. Hook 'em horns. He just talks about make your bed, which is doing the little things every day when you first get up and continue to do the little things, kind of like we first talked about when we started today. The little things turn into the bigger things, inch by inch, little chunks to make you better. So this one will be a good, he also wrote Sea Stories. I think I read that, but Make Your Bed's a good one. But this is a new one called The Hero Code. I know you'll like that. He's another great man, another one of perseverance, been through a lot in his life, very successful general, and just another good read. I know that's going to be a good read. And I want to read that when you're done with it because that's a short read. So
For sure, my good man. And I think books are some of the best things that we can give each other. I tried to do audiobooks for a while. I don't really listen to them when I drive. Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts on like longer drives, but I found that I'd fall asleep and I try to do it right before I go to bed. You got everything else now. It's finally your time to relax, and I would just fall asleep, and so I wouldn't listen to it anyway. So I went back to hardcover books. So Admiral William H. McRaven, The Hero Code. I'm looking forward to this too because I feel like we're born into this kind of box and we don't realize it because nobody tells you that. So you learn what you learn from your parents. There's a lot of other perspectives out there that can let you see new things or see the invisible that wasn't there before, or free your mind from that box. And that's what these things do.
they do.
Which helps me in my life all the time. And I think there's a mixture between, book knowledge and school smarts and then the real world and how you apply it. There's like theory and actual application. And I've got to see that in my life from, college and, debating people in college or talking about new ideas and then going to law school and being taught like what's reasonable, what's not, how fairness kind of underlies everything we do. The question is, who's the law going to be most fair to? Because you have to try to be fair to both sides, but it's usually a little bit more to one side or another. How to reason about things, how to speak about things, think and analyze in an orderly fashion. It's incredible. But now that I've gotten out into my business, I've been lucky to have a few good mentors, and one of the best that I've had is my friend Vincent Copero. Shout out to Vince. He owns a law firm called Real Law Group, and he's taught me more about seeing that you don't have to do things in a certain order, and you got to think about your ability to solve problems even when you can't do them yourself. Like, who can do this to help you? At helping with delegation of duty, and just seeing outside the box of like where there's a will, there's a way. And I become such an incredible problem solver in the past few years. And when I was younger, I wasn't able to solve problems like that, and it stressed me out because you're up against something, you know you have a deadline or something that needs to be done, and but now I'm figuring out ways to do it. So the problem for me is just that I'm pretty overwhelmed in my life between the business and doing stuff like this podcast, which is a passion of mine, so I'm never going to quit doing that. And then finding time to exercise on a consistent basis and avoiding burnout and still being there for my family and all that as well. But I think it'll get better over time because if I grow wealth, then I have more wealth to spread around for people to help me, and then I can focus really in on just the passion projects or being engaged in the community or civic engagement, which I feel for the younger generation coming up because they learned life in an opposite order of the way I learned it. Exactly. They're starting out with technology, and this is a very powerful drug, these cell phones that don't come with a warning label.
We grew into it.
Yeah, we grew into it. They grew in it right away. So like
they're born in it.
Yeah, and I see, and I said this before, I'll say it again.
Excuse me.
You'll be out at a restaurant, and if a kid's just being a kid, exploring, getting up, going around the restaurant, grabbing things on the table, the parents will sit them down and they put this in front of them.
Yep.
And it's just opiate, and they just stare at it, and they stare at it, and they stare at it. Nearsightedness is a problem with these because people stare at the phones a lot, but also you're not learning to socialize, which is like people break bread together. They talk. Mm-hmm. They learn from each other just being, at the dinner table or whatever, and you're taking that away from the children. And then, the problems of communication amongst peers their own age, and then it's bullying. Like when we were younger, I was bullied, and sometimes, I was the aggressor, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't stay at the school now. Right. It's coming home because at night they're hitting people with texts or direct messages through social media, right. And it kind of never ends, and it's really affecting mental health. So that's something that you as a leader within the youth community, and that we will have to work against, mm-hmm. man, because we're in it so deep now, and there was no warning labels about this, right. How badly it affects children. But in any event, I think we'll probably take a quick break.
Okay.
Because that coffee's, I'm ready to piss here.
Gotta go, huh?
We'll take a quick break. We won't pause the recording. We'll just take off our stuff.
Sure.
Do you need to go at all or no?
Yeah, I need to go. So.
All right, folks, we're back with you. And so now that we've had a good general discussion, I'd like to talk about, Steve and his life and what he went through and how he grew up into, getting into the military. And hopefully y'all can learn something from that. So you said earlier that you grew up in Wausau, Wisconsin?
Yeah, central Wisconsin. Mosinee, Wausau area, Weston area, the three surrounding towns. So.
Were you born in Chicago or born here?
I was born in Chicago.
So you're born in Chicago, and then at what age were you when your mom moved up here?
My mom and dad moved up to Red Mountain, Wisconsin, which is central Wisconsin, out by Wausau when I was 4.
4 years old. So yeah, you were probably at the point where you're just able to start forming memories mm-hmm. and remembering it.
That's correct.
When you were here. And so what was life like when you got here in Wisconsin?
Well, so I was little then. I just remember a lot. My dad, he always liked to fish, and we'd be out fishing a lot with my mom and my sister. Those were like my earliest memories of my childhood. Pretty much kind of just running around doing what we wanted as kids, just meeting neighborhood kids. Times were slower, less technology, barely any technology back then in the 70s. So just pretty much, running around bikes, playing ball, just being a kid. That's what being a kid was back then. And then just, the typical family, 2 kids, my mom, my dad. My dad had a boat. He used to go fishing a lot. He used to love to fish. And that was pretty much my memories of my early childhood. And then just playing a lot with my friends in the neighborhood. That's really what we did. I love baseball, and I still do. And that's to my passion now. I coach softball, and I played a lot of softball over the years in the military. That kind of propelled me to continue to do what I loved back then, and I still love it now. So yeah, that was my early memories. And then playing ball as a young kid, whether it was t-ball, little league ball, or whatever, there in Red Mountain, Wisconsin, and then just meeting friends. And I still talk to some of my childhood friends up that way, so it's pretty neat. But I moved a lot. So after moved when we were 4, I went to I think 2 different elementary schools I did. I went to Remote Elementary, and then, if that's what it's called, and then I went to Franklin Elementary, and then I went to John Muir Middle School, and then I also went to Mosinee Middle School. We moved quite a bit. So that, ties into being adaptive and just learning new people and learning new cultures. And then I went to 3 high schools. So I went to Mosinee,
Jesus,
DC
that's a
Everest,
lot.
and then Ishpeming. But it taught me a lot about resilience and how you can just get through things. The thing that kept me going was my friends. I had a really good friend network because my house wasn't always the best because my mom always had to work and I didn't always have the best role models for stepfathers. So that was tough. But growing up, it kind of forged me to who I am today. And what that kind of, if I reflect on myself more, I'm just an independent person. I'm very independent. I don't rely on a lot of people. Sometimes that can be a fault, but it also has taught me a lot of resilience to how to get things done, not catastrophize things, just know how to do them and get through things by myself. Whether it's something simple or it's something that's hard to do, just to try and figure it out and have the will to do that. And then that kind of helped me throughout my military. So backing up a little bit, so high school, middle school, high school, ended up graduating in Upper Michigan, that's North Highway 8 up into UP. It was like being in a different country, going up there my senior year. And I ended up moving back down to central Wisconsin after my senior year, and I joined the military because I knew I wasn't gonna be a blue-collar worker the rest of my life. Or I didn't want to do that because that's what everybody did. They would work shift work, get a good living. That's what central Wisconsin, it still can be that way. It's not all that, but I just didn't want to fall into that category, and I didn't see myself doing that the rest of my life. And coming home, it was 2 to 10, have a few beers with the guys, and go to bed, and then do that over and over again. To me, monotony can crush the soul, and I just am not I cannot be a monotonous person. And so that's when I'm like, so 9/11, or not 9/11, Gulf War I started, the Gulf War. I joined the military with my best friend then. I said, hey, you want to go in? Just out of a whim.
How old were you at that time?
I was 18, almost 19.
And this was right when the Gulf War was starting?
That's right. So it was that fall, we were still living together, working at a factory, a manufacturing factory that manufactured windows. And I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. It was 2 to 10 shift, after high school. I was still dating Tammy. We might even been engaged at the time. And I'm just like, I can't do this the rest of my life. So I said, there's got to be another way. So we went and talked to the recruiter. And one of my best friends up in Wausau, Chris Newman, shout out to him, we joined the Army together. And we signed in December, and Gulf War started 15 January, I think, 1991. Or in January 1991. And we shipped in January 91 to Fort Benning, Georgia for infantry basic and AIT.
How long did that last?
That lasted till May, and then the war was already over by then. So,
Yeah, because it was only really, the Gulf War was less than a week.
Yeah, it was a brief war. I'm not sure how long it was looking back at it, but it was done when we were in basic training. So when we got to Fort Riley, Kansas, which was our first duty station, me and Chris, everybody was there a combat veteran, and we weren't. So it was we were the anomaly because we were the newbies. That's what they call them, the newbies. So we got a lot of the details and crap work because you're the new privates coming into the unit with all these troops that come back, or combat infantrymen that have their combat infantry badges. So they're the stuff, and we're just the new privates that come there and thinking we're great because we just graduated basic and AIT, and then we have to prove our way. So, and then that was my first duty station for 18 months at Fort Riley, Kansas. So,
Kansas,
and it was okay. It's Kansas. There's a lot of neat things out there, but it was definitely not where I wanted to stay. Right. If I had a choice in the military, that wouldn't be where I wanted to stay. But that's where I first started in the military. It's the Big Red One, very famous infantry division, which has a lot of history. But from there, they moved me to Germany. So I was in Baumholder, Germany after that in a mech unit. And I did probably almost 2 years over there.
What's a mech unit?
Mechanized infantry, Bradley fighting vehicles. They have 25 millimeter cannons, and then they have squads of dismounts in the back. So I was always part of the squads of dismounts. And
So kind of like infantry guys that would jump off the back and start ground assaults?
yeah, that's what we do. Yeah, ground assaults, and we do a lot of training. And that's where I really learned about the military. So the first year and a half when I was at Fort Riley, that was just trying to figure out who I was in the military. But then when I was at PCS to Germany, and they used to say this about the Army, that you had the stateside Army and then you had the overseas Army. And what that meant was the overseas Army was primarily more trained and more disciplined than the stateside Army's bases. Not all of them, but that was, when I was a young soldier, we definitely were more trained overseas than we were at the stateside. So we did a lot more exercise. And it's a lot more locked down overseas and a lot more controlled than it is stateside because you're in another country. So I did 2 years over there, did a lot of missions, didn't travel as many places as I wanted to, but it was cool. I've been to France, I did Luxembourg, and then I hung out with, in Germany, down by Saarbrücken a lot, and then, I've been to Mannheim, Frankfurt, things like that. But it was a good experience, and I would like to go back to Germany today. That was early 90s when I was there, just to see how much it's progressed and see how different it is now to where it was. And I'm sure things are very expensive there now than when I was there. That's a long time ago in the 90s, to see how it's really changed and how things are out of balance there, as they are in a lot of places nowadays.
You were there at an interesting time too, because
I was.
The Soviet Union had just collapsed a couple years earlier.
The wall, yep.
And the wall came down between East Berlin
Yep.
and West Berlin. Did you get to see some of that change in person?
No, I didn't, because I was far up in the North Berlin, and I was pretty much I was in southern Germany, but I was south of Mannheim.
Removed from that.
But very removed from that. So it was a different area. Actually, where I was stationed in Baumholder, Germany, that wasn't even an attack during World War II. Our mess halls, which is where you eat, dining facilities, I think they call them now, we call them mess halls back then, they had swastikas on the bricks of the mess halls. And during World War II, you wouldn't have seen any of that. That stuff would have all been bombed out by the Allies in the fighting. But that area didn't get hit.
So you actually saw swastikas in the mess halls?
They were on our mess hall brick, on our brick, the mortar. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pretty neat.
That's interesting because, we talk about cancel culture today, and I actually, we talked about it on the last podcast right before this one. I don't even think it's a good thing, because I think that we need to acknowledge the wrongs of the past and not forget them, because I feel like we're doomed to repeat them if we don't.
That's right.
And I feel like in some senses in schools and in education today that they're trying to erase those types of things, when no, like, you have to kind of relive it mentally and learn from what those people went through to avoid that stuff happening again today. Because I'm sure throughout history there's people like, World War II will never happen after World War I,
Right.
and then it does. And even now, like, the scary thing to think about, as technologically advanced as we are, is that it could happen again.
Right.
And who knows how close or far we are from that. Hopefully far away, knock on wood,
Right.
whatever. But yeah, to learn from the past. It's kind of weird though. I think they joke around in the media. Like, I know on Family Guy they were saying they try to pretend like, Nazis have never happened to Germany, but they're different people than they were back then. But it just shows you that, intelligent, hardworking people can be led into groupthink and have it be the most terrible atrocity we've ever witnessed in our generations, in our lifetimes, and perhaps of all time in history.
Right.
Very crazy. So,
Yeah.
So you were in Germany. You were there for 2 years.
2 years.
2 years, and where did you go from there?
Fort Carson, Colorado.
Oh, so you're back stateside then.
Back stateside.
So you come back stateside.
Yeah, and I made sergeant by then. I went back to Fort Carson, and then we got deployed to Cuba during the Cuban refugee crisis, when the Cubans were fleeing Cuba, and then they made it to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which is naval. It's not a naval base, but there's a naval footprint there. Well, they might call it a naval base, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And as it's progressed now, that was all in the news with 9/11 and the refugees and all that from Afghanistan and Iraq, and a lot of terrorists throughout the world that were housed there. But anyways, we were housing the Cubans back there, and that was in the mid-90s. And I did a brief stint there for about 6 months. And it was a good mission, guarding the Cuban refugees. And then when we came back, I actually went to leadership school to make sergeant. So mid-90s, so about 4 years after I joined, I made sergeant. So that was good. That was a big accomplishment. It was a proud day. Times were different then than they are now in the Army. you had to get your training before you got promoted. And now we kind of, I wouldn't say we're out of balance, but we just do promotion systems differently, where we promote them first and then they go to their schooling. And I don't know if I always agree with that, because you got to work for something to obtain it, and that's what we had to do back then. And now they're putting the cart before the horse, per se, that they're promoting them first and then they go to their schooling. And I think it's more, when I've seen it, because I've worked at schoolhouses. I was a commandant in the Army of schoolhouses, where we train for non-commissioned officer education system, which is levels of leadership of rank that you wear, and position of authority and responsibility. But with that said, that's where we've changed, and a lot of it was driven because of the wars. So we needed leaders out there. Well, we couldn't get them to school because we were fighting a war. So we had to promote them, and then after the promotions, then they would go to school. So I can see both sides of it. Hopefully that's getting more aligned to where it was when I came up through the ranks.
That seems to be a more logical way to do it.
And I would hope
you have
so.
to earn this, and you have to have the knowledge qualifications of what we expect from that position.
That's correct, and that's what happened. So, and then I did basically, I think I was there till 97. I was so about 2 years.
In Colorado.
I was Colorado Springs, 4th ID.
And now your daughter's there in college.
That's right.
It's
She's
kind
in
of
Denver.
full
Yep.
circle where your
And
family's back there.
that's pretty cool. And I actually go down there and visit people that are still in the Army when I go visit Madeline, which is pretty cool. Which I'll do again in 2 weeks. I'm going to go visit her.
Which is awesome that you keep those connections from the past. That's
Yeah.
something I admire about you. You have a lot of people throughout your life that you stay in touch with, and I try to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's important, and I could be better at that. Speaking of that, but it's a blessing because I know someone in almost every state, which is pretty cool. It's just, that's a blessing. I'm blessed Life University. I'm blessed in so many ways, but that's a huge blessing to make a phone call or send a text. Hey, I'm going to be in this area. You're around. And catch up for dinner. May they have you over. Whatever it may be. That's a blessing.
It is,
because people are wealth. Money can be rich, but people are wealth, and more people understand that. And you were talking about that, having people over at your house and fights. People is what make you wealthy. I don't think a crap ton of money makes you wealthy. I say that's more riches.
You could be lonely and rich.
There you go.
Wealthy is you having people around you, having things that are more than just paper.
That's right.
Valuable things.
There's 3 things I look at in life. It's what you're going to get up and do every day, to have that purpose, drive, passion, discipline, whatever it may be. Second thing, have some near and short-term goals. You don't always have to attain them, but try. If you fail, try again, try something else. And the third thing is to have someone to do it with. That's the trifecta in life, in my opinion. Them 3 things. And if you have them, you're a pretty complete person. That's just what I see, and that's just what I've lived. And, I lost a lot of that when I retired, because you lose your military family. But to that point, so I did that stuff for 27 years. So then I went to Korea from there.
So from Colorado in 97 to Korea. How long were you in Korea?
1 year, 97 to 98. Yep.
How'd you like that?
I did. Really physically fit unit. Trained a lot. Not as much as the unit down the road, because, infantry units always compare them against each other. And my best friend was over there. He's down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Jeremy, shout out to Jeremy McKean. He was down in Tulsa, now retired. He was at Camp Hovey, I was at Camp Casey. Did a lot of road marching, physical stuff, always to be ready because of the tension with North Korea. So did that year. My wife came over. We actually went to Jeju Island. I stayed leave in Korea. Went to an island in Jeju. It was super cool. It's an island off the peninsula of Korea, south of there, and then we also spent some time in Seoul, which is a huge city. So
That's their capital city.
It is.
Yeah.
We had a great time, and Tammy really liked that vacation, because it was a vacation for her. So she left. So she stayed in Colorado when I was stationed over in Korea, and so she just came over during my mid-tour leave, which you usually get about 2 weeks off. So we just spent it right there in Korea, which was cool. So, and we didn't have kids at the time.
So when you were in Korea for that year, was it about you and your troops orienting themselves with Korea and how it is there in order to defend South Korea if they needed to? Or was it also, or maybe both at the same time, helping train the Korean military on your practices?
We didn't train the Korean military. We had Katusas in our ranks, which were Koreans that would be in our ranks, in our platoons or squads or whatever, that be in our companies, and they would train with us.
Yeah.
We didn't do a lot of maneuvers with the South Koreans. We didn't, yeah. But
not your particular.
That's
units
correct.
over there.
But I'm sure some do, and I'm sure some do more.
They
today.
do like naval exercises
They
together
do, yeah.
out in the water.
Big scale exercises, yeah.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of gunnery exercises because we had Bradley fighting vehicles. You had to keep them every 6 months. You had gunners, and I was a Bradley commander at the time, so we had to do day-night gunnery, which is to qualify and take down targets at these tables that you had to do to keep up your qualifications as a crew. You have a driver, gunner, and then Bradley commander, and I was a commander.
Bradleys are kind of like tanks, or what?
They're not tanks because they carry individual personal carriers and they carry dismounts, infantry, but they can be categorized as, you know, a small infantry fighting vehicle, but it's not a tank because a tank is just 3 people. We in the infantry carry squads in there to dismount them to do assaults. Tanks can't assault. They can assault, but they don't have dismounts. People on the
they don't
ground.
have infantry dismount. So,
Right, people on the ground.
How
Difference.
many people are in a Bradley?
You have the driver, gunner, and Bradley commander, that's 3. And then I think in the back you can fit a half a squad, which would be 5 or 6.
Okay.
And then the other, so you have 4 per platoon.
Yeah.
So one squad would be in 2 Bradleys, you know, 5 and 5, that's a squad of infantry, and then 5 and 5 would be in the other 2 Bradleys. So 2 squads of infantry, and then 2 squads, or they're not really squads, but the 2 Bradleys would be like, you know, driver, gunner, BC, 6 people in a platoon, or in a squad, and 6 people in the next squad, and then you got your infantry squads behind you. So it's usually four squads in a platoon. Yep. Trying to think how many people it is, 20 some people in the platoon. So, and then you got the platoon sergeant and a platoon leader, the officer and your senior guy, your senior NCO. So I was a staff sergeant at that time. So I was running a Bradley commander, or I was a Bradley commander. So if that makes sense. And you have a 25 millimeter gun, TOW missile systems, and then you have a coax 7.62 machine gun. So you have 3 big weapon systems on that.
Yeah,
so
sounds impressive.
yeah, but the 25 millimeter, that's a Bushmaster cannon. That's nothing compared to the 120 millimeter cannon on a tank.
Yeah.
So that's how big the tank, you know, 120 millimeter. We're shooting a 25 millimeter, but it's very effective.
It's a big ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our 25 millimeter is about this big,
Yeah.
about that long, the round. So, and they got high explosive rounds, and then they got sable rounds, so that are piercing, can pierce some armor. So it's cool job. And then I went back to Fort Carson from there.
So from Korea, then 1 year in Korea, back to Fort Carson.
That's correct.
And Carson is Colorado, or?
Yep.
Okay, Colorado.
And then we owned a house there already at the time, so we just, you know, she was already staying there, and then we didn't have kids, like I said, at the time, and then we went back there, and that's where I ended up getting out of the regular Army before I went up here to Fort McCoy full-time. So
from Colorado to Fort McCoy.
So 98 to 2000. So I did a couple more years there, and then I transitioned and went full-time for the Army Reserve. And that's what I did the rest of my career, and did stints at Fort McCoy.
Well, reserve until you got called for active duty.
Right. Well, I was a full-time reservist all these years. So very similar to being
I didn't
active
know that was
duty.
the thing. I thought you
Yep.
were active duty, or you were a reservist where you were part-time, but you were
So-
full-time reservist.
so all these
you
reserve-
ran the day-to-day.
That's right. So all these reserve units have full-timers that run.
Yes. Matt taught me about this.
Yep. So that's what I did when I left in 2000, and then I did that for 17 years. And I started at Fort McCoy instructing, which I have a passion to this day that I love because I sub-teach in the school districts here, and then I also, like I said before, I coach softball. I like to give back. I taught them primary leadership development course, which I was talking about. That's the sergeant course. So I did that, and then I was there from like 2000 to 2003 doing that, and got promoted at that time. And then I went to Guam, and in the only infantry unit that's in the Army Reserve. It's the 100th Battalion, 442nd Infantry. Historic infantry unit, got roots to World War II. It was the most decorated unit in World War II for its size. It's the Go for Broke Battalion. Very proud to fight with them. I had units in Guam, Saipan, Tinian, and Rhodes. I had soldiers in all 4 islands I was responsible for. So I had to do the day-to-day operations, training, planning, logistics, arranging flights, getting them paid with my admin people and my pay people. So a lot of responsibility, and I was just a sergeant first class at the time. But that was probably my most humbling, and learned the most about myself, how much I could get done by myself. Back to the independence part, how I was brought up, to really make things happen for them soldiers and for that unit. And a lot of the times it was people in the past that had the seat before me, they didn't really probably put in the effort as much as they should have into the unit. And I always took that serious. I always took my units serious as I do my family and my friends, because you have to take care of them. Because if you're not taking care of them, they're not going to take care of you. And that's just the way I look at the Army. And that's probably the military as well. If you take care of the military as an individual, the military is going to reward you for the most part by your performance, and you will get promoted on your merit. That's how the military works for the most part. So it's not always perfect, it's not always fair, it's not always equitable, but it's a great system. So I did that for a long time.
And tell people where Guam is in relation to.
So
the rest of
Guam
the world.
is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, 8-hour flight from Hawaii.
8 hours from Hawaii. Wow.
West of Hawaii.
So on the,
In the
on
middle,
the
and
flight out there,
it's close to the Philippines.
do you do like a layover in Hawaii and then take off from there and go
Yep.
the rest?
It's
And then you
tough
had
to
your
get out
car
there.
shipped out there.
I did. I had a Honda Accord 94. Loved it. I actually traded in a Honda CRV I'm still driving now, 2006 or 2007. Traded that at
They put
Southern
it on a
Academy.
boat?
They did. Took like 45 days to get out there.
No shit.
Yep. Loved it. Yep. And then we
Is
deployed.
Guam bigger than Hawaii
Guam's-
as far as the islands?
No, it's a lot smaller. It's
Really?
14 miles by 7 miles. That's it.
14 miles by 7 miles.
It's a small rock.
What's the population there?
I couldn't tell you.
Or is it more of just a military population just there?
Oh no, there's a lot of locals there. Yeah, Chamorros. Yep, that's their culture, Chamorro.
Chamorro
Yeah, I know a lot of them still too. I just talked to a buddy this summer. He's down in Texas, and he still does military hops and gets back over there. So you can take military hops when you're retired, which is military aircraft to try and get back home, and he still tries to do that. So, but you get laid over a lot. So that's the trouble about it, because it's space A, only if they have the space available for you. But that was just a cool culture. I learned a lot about people, myself. I had all them islands. The islands had different cultures on them. Yeah, it was just neat. And then we deployed to Iraq from there.
From there, you deployed out of
Well,
Guam,
not
okay.
from Guam, but we had to go to Operation Iraqi Freedom 3 when this war kicked off. We trained up for almost 8 months from Fort Shafter to White Sands Missile Base, which is right outside New Mexico, or in New Mexico. It was, and then we went down to Louisiana to validate for a training exercise, finally before we even got into Kuwait. So it was like from that summer to the next spring, we were just training. That's what they were doing, the Army Reserve and the Guard units. They were training them up that much to make sure they were ready to go fight, and I was part of that. It was
Yeah.
a lot of work.
I can imagine it is, because to be going into a war theater where there's active war going
Yep.
on, I mean, you need to be ready for
Yep.
that, man. Physically, mentally,
Sure.
with your weapon systems. Crazy. So from Louisiana, then you deployed to Iraq.
To Kuwait, and then
Kuwait.
we brought all our vehicles up into Balad, Iraq. So, and then we did ground missions every day outside the wire. So, which Humvees and vehicles like that. We were
Patrolling,
patrolling, looking for bad people, and found a lot of bad people. And God rest their souls, we lost some soldiers over there. It was pretty tough. We lost 4 troops in our battalion.
And where were you at in Iraq?
In Balad, BLA.
Balad?
Yep, Balad.
Is that a major city?
It was a major city, yeah. It still is a major city up there, yep. So it was tough, and then we did a year there. So all the time together, we were, you were mobilized and gone from your family almost 17 months. That's a long time, so.
Yeah, it really is, because that's the thing that we talked about. I remember when you were being gone, is the lengths of time that you were away from your wife, from your daughters in their formative years. That's a big chunk of just that. It's not super huge, but in military time, when you're over there doing what you're doing, that's an important piece.
That's
of
a
time.
long time, yep. So, we get pretty comfortable as a society, and people, really complain about little things that are minor. I mean, I just looked at all the things I've missed throughout my life, and it's just you chalk it up to an experience, good, bad, or indifferent, but, I just don't dwell on it. It's just time. You just have lost time. Yeah, you lost time. But you just can't dwell on it. You got to move forward. But it sucks. And back to that point, my daughter, we didn't bring Madeline up. She was born at Fort McCoy the first time before I even went to Guam. She was born in 2001. So we did have her here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
She was born here. But yeah, so I did basically 3 years there in Guam with the deployment to Iraq. Got to come over for my sister Laura's wedding, you remember.
Yeah.
That was in May. I'm pretty sure that was May. And then we finished up right after Christmas, turned a torch over to the next unit. Then I went back to Guam. And I don't have a lot of regrets, but I was promoted during that time and I made Master Sergeant. So the position was E7, which is a rank below. So I had to go. And I was able to come back to Fort McCoy. So then I came back here. But in hindsight, I should have waited because I made the Sergeant Major list that summer. So I had to move twice. So I wasn't even back at McCoy, not even a year. And then I had to go down to El Paso and do the Sergeant Major Academy, which is a year long. And then during that time, we had our second daughter, Eva, when we were back here at McCoy, and she was born as a preemie. So that was a lot of stress, but it all worked out. She's healthy now. She was...
Great young lady,
Yeah.
Madeline and Eva both.
I appreciate that. So then we had to move down there and do that for a year. And then met a lot of connections and still some great Sergeant Majors I talked to out there. Did that school for a year, and then I made Sergeant Major after that. And then I came back here, and then I was the Deputy Commandant at the schoolhouse, the second in charge. I did that for about 3 years. And then in between that time, I got picked to go on a provincial reconstruction team down to Afghanistan, or over to Afghanistan. And that was a lot of work too. So we were down, so I got picked for that mission.
Repeat that last part. What your mission there was? You were part of what?
A provisional reconstruction team.
Provisional reconstruction team.
To do good things with the governor of the area, which I was in Jalalabad, or not Jalalabad, I was in province Logman, Laghman, Logman province, to work with the governor, the local people, to do good things in that community and to help build relationships with the governor and the people. I had to go down to Camp Atterbury, back down to flexibility and just everything I've been through in life. You know, I guess like people do things and get picked for certain things for a reason. And the more I reflect on it, I had to build with my commander. He was Air Force, Colonel Castillo, God bless him. I think he's out at Fort Bragg now, North Carolina. He was over in England for a while. He retired from the Air Force as well. Well, I retired from the Army. He retired from the Air Force. We still talk once in a blue moon. He was my commander. I had Air Force, I had Civil Affairs Army Reserve, I had National Guard Infantry, and myself as the Sergeant Major, the right-hand man to the Colonel. And we had to build this unit within 5 months before they chip us over.
Before you went to Afghanistan.
All from the basics of soldier skills to all the way up to the tactical MDMP, military decision-making process, to just all the stuff that entails of going over into theater as a well-oiled machine. So, and that was a good mission. We did lose a troop. That was tough. That was really tough. I still think about him a lot, Dennis Weichel. Just the stresses of the things you do overseas, it gets a grind, but it's also rewarding, just like the people you meet and the things you do over there. But that was also a very humbling and rewarding experience of my life. So, and I cherish sometimes.
Well, I saw you when you came back, and
Yep.
Man, you told me something that kind of stuck with me, and you might recall this when I mentioned it to you, but you said that in Iraq, and I think I'm getting this right, in Iraq the people were friendly, or friendlier, and they were more willing to work with Americans, and they were a little more friendly, but I believe you told me that the Afghani people just didn't want us there.
No, they don't.
They weren't friendly to us.
Right.
I mean, maybe some people on more individual levels, but on a general level, it seemed like Iraq, at least, okay, it is what it is, but in Afghanistan, they didn't want us there as an occupying force. And I mean, they had been through that with the Soviet Union as well. I don't know how long the Soviet Union was in there. I'd have to brush up on my history.
Sure.
But that was tough, man.
That was really tough.
Mentally, was it tougher coming back from Afghanistan than it was Iraq?
They were both tough because just everything we had to do just to get there, all the train up and just the heartaches to get into theater, to be training these units as senior leaders. I would say they're equally as tough. Afghanistan, that's a tough place. It's just a tough climate. They're both tough, but I would say, equally mentally, they both were exhausted me. They aged me a little bit at the time, so it's hard to get them years back of what you're doing for your country, but it's also rewarding, and made me the person I am, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't have a different path. God put me on that path, and I'm glad He did, because it's been a good path.
Thank you for your service,
Yep,
brother.
cheers.
And that God spared you and got you back here safe to your family and your friends, and we wouldn't be sitting here today if you weren't.
Yeah, and I just wish the other ones we lost were still with us. That's the toughest thing. You do think about that a lot, and since I retired, you have a lot more time to reflect, and you just gotta remember the good and all the ones that we lost, because they've gone too soon, but they left an impact, and that's just what we got to remember of all our heroes that are out there that we've lost overseas. Even in training, we got to remember that their sacrifice is not in vain. It's for something, something for the greater good of this country, which we need to be the beacon of hope, United States of America. And I truly believe that. It's because there's a lot of good in this country. You have to be optimistic,
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of bullshit shenanigans going on these past few years, but the fabric of what we are as a nation, as a people, and think whatever we can do to unite each other on an individual level in these communities and build strong communities, because strong parts don't always make a strong team, but most of the time they do. And so what you're saying rings home. No matter what we've been through and no matter what we did, that we can't remember those, or we can't forget those lost, and just kind of build toward the future, because I feel like even since you were deployed in these areas, a lot has changed, probably in the military and also in our society, because we've been through a lot. We had 9/11 in 2001, the once-in-a-lifetime, or hopefully once-in-a-lifetime crash we had in 2008. Then you have the advent of social media and things going at that into this pandemic, and 20-year wars, man. I mean, you were part of that for a few years, and there's people who are doing multiple deployments. And I know it's not easy, man. I had my good friend Mike Morrison come back, and I saw the differences in him when he came back. My good friend Scott Smith, Marine, did I think he was in both Iraq and Afghanistan. I think he did like 3 deployments in Afghanistan. He was telling me about the mental feelings that he went through at the times, and how just he was at some points didn't know if he wanted to live or die anymore through what he was going through as an infantryman in the Marine. And it's just telling me about all that stuff he went through, which we won't get into. But in any event, you had been in the United States, and from McCoy, you were in Fort Hood for a little while.
I was. So after that mission, I was selected to be a command sergeant major, which is the pinnacle of the enlisted ranks. So it's still E9. E9 is high as you can go, pay scale. But the command sergeant major, it's the sergeant major rank with the reef around it. I was selected to be the 7th Battalion, 158th, and you came down to visit me down in Texas, aviation, and you've seen some of the Blackhawks and helicopters.
The Chinooks and the CH-47s and Blackhawks.
And that was another rewarding assignment. I had units from Los Alamitos, California on the left, all the way to Johnstown, Pennsylvania on the right, which is not too far from Pittsburgh, out in the country there. And then I had units at Fort Knox, Kentucky, everywhere. Fort Hood, Texas, down to Brownsville, Texas, and then I had a unit at Fort Carson, Colorado. So I was always busy traveling and meeting some great airmen or aviators out there. I almost said airmen, and just great soldiers, and just really made that unit different than what it was, because I always tried to be a person of trying to find the best in things, but I also make people do things they probably aren't wanting to do, but once they start doing them, they realize it's not that bad as they think. Like I used to do mandatory PT, we played dodgeball, things like this. Units mostly don't do that anymore with their senior leaders. I was always the leader to get out with my soldiers.
A man of the people.
That's right.
I think they say in leadership that that's one of the best ways to inspire everything you need to inspire loyalty, connection, because if you truly care about your soldiers on an individual level, they know that, and that inspires them as well.
That's right. You don't always have to be liked, but they'll respect you because you're putting in the time just like them. And I've always been at the aspect of, David Goggins is like that. I'm going to show you that I can do this. And I've always been I'm going to show you that I can still do this. I can still...
You can do this, but they can do it too.
That's right. And it wasn't to be demeaning to them, but it was showing them that I can do it at my age. There's no reason you can't do it if you're 10 years junior to me, 15 years junior, or whatever it may be. Even if you're close to my age, you still can put in the time. And if you have that internal drive and discipline, and you know, you already have the purpose. This is the purpose we're doing it. This is a physical event, a PT test, whatever. That there's not many excuses for you not to do it. And we have a lot of great leaders out there. So I always like to try and set an example with that physical and mental toughness in the military. So, because I think we should be that. I do.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like one of the problems with society in terms of military and policing is that, especially in larger liberal cities and things like that, is that there's been a perversion of purpose of what these institutions are meant to be. War is ugly and killing is ugly. But if our hand is forced and we must fight, we must be killing machines. We must be elite.
right.
We must be strong. We must be mobile.
Yep.
And I know that they have watered down the PT standards to be like, oh, you're in the reserves. Like you just have to run 1 mile and be able to do like, you know, barely 20 push-ups or something like that. It's like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Right.
Do you think that's what the Russians are doing?
Yep.
Like I brought this video up before. There was a comparison of the American military recruiting video
Oh, I know.
to the Russian military
I've seen
video.
it.
Yes.
Seen both of them.
And I believe what I see in those Russian military recruiting videos is what they are actually going through and what we should be going through. Like, I believe in being the best you can be, and I don't really believe in comparison a lot, but when there's a deficit between you and the, you know, the competition, maybe it's time to look at the competition and say, like, if we got into it right now, you know, who has the hardier, mentally more tough, and physically in shape people? And you look at Russia, they live a different life over there. And they say Russians actually have a very good sense of humor because they have to just to survive their everyday life because they don't have the niceties, the what are we looking for?
Creature comforts, we call them in the military.
There's accommodations that we have here. So they're hardy. They know how to survive cold. They laugh at things that because they would go nuts if they didn't, right? And so, in any event, you know, when I visited you in Fort Hood, very cool. We toured that side of Texas, Waco, West, you know, Temple with Fort Hood. We saw Austin, which I wish I could have stayed there for a longer time.
San Antonio.
We should make our next trip together down to Austin because Rogan's down there and he's opened up a comedy club. We should do like a 4 or 5 day trip down there and check out some live music.
Try and get on his podcast. Knock on the door.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably his hidden location with a lot of security.
In his bunker.
But
that'd be cool.
That would be super cool.
So back to my last assignment. So that was 7158, and then after that, I got selected again for a higher command sergeant major. So at the CSM billets, you get selected at different levels, and I was selected at. So you start at the battalion level as a command sergeant major. That was 7th Battalion. Then I got selected for a brigade job, which was the commandant here at Fort McCoy, and I did that. So I was a deputy before.
That's as high as it goes for enlisted.
Yeah. Well, at that level, brigade, you can go division and corps and things like that. But I retired out of there in 2018, and I got selected to do the same job twice out at Jersey, and I was the second on the list, and I didn't want to do that again, so I just knew it was kind of time to retire in 2018. So that's when I retired. So I did that job again, so I was familiar with it.
Hard to believe that so much time has already passed.
It has.
Since 2018. Shit, we're in 2022 now, man.
I know.
So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, you're almost 5 years out now.
Yeah, and I have a lot of, you know, advice for people getting out of the military and just the struggles that go with it.
And I'm going to pull up that list right now so we cover those things. That was the main purpose that you wanted to discuss. So yes, you get out, your transition from military 2018. You're 4 years out, a little over 4 now, since we're in 2022. And the first thing you mentioned was types of emotions and what other veterans are probably going through, just like you, because you're similarly situated.
So, kind of like with my childhood, I didn't really have all the role models and things to grasp onto besides my really good friends. So when you join the military, you become part of a team. And then when you do that for so long, or even if you do it just for a few years, you go to combat with a unit, you have a great training unit, you meet so much bonds within the military. When you get out, it's tough. It's a tough transition because our society's not developed on teamwork, cohesion, and communicate to work together for a common purpose. It gets fostered in organizations, I get that, but the military drives you into that because you have to. You have to work together
To survive, to succeed.
That's right, to accomplish a mission, because you have missions outlined for you in the military. Whatever you're a cook, truck driver, an infantryman, to field artillery, whatever you're doing, mortarman, you're going to have a mission, and you have a group of people, guys and girls around you that has to accomplish it. So once you do that for so long and you lose that, you lose a sense of yourself. You really do. It was tough for me because I did that for 27 years. Awesome career, met amazing people, did some amazing things for our country, and the country gave back and did amazing things for me. But when you get out, you're stripped. You're just Steve. I'm just Steve Dreyer now. That's all I am. We're all just zero at the end.
Well, you're more than that to us, brother.
No, I know that, but that's just the way it is.
I know what you mean. Now you're back in the civilian life.
Right.
That part of your identity, and not even part of your identity, that your identity is now you're civilian, and there's not a clear mission anymore.
Yep. Yeah, and so that was tough for me. You do this for so long, and you get out, and you're just like, yeah, I have all this free time. It's great. Everybody talks about, oh, I'm going to do this. Every day can't be a Saturday. I can't just wake up and have, in the afternoon and just have a few beers every day, or just go fishing every day or go golfing every day, because your hobbies turn into work if you're doing it all the time. And then it's not enjoyable. It's really not.
I agree with you.
It's not. You
have to have a contrast to, you don't know what bad is without experiencing it if it's all good all the time.
That's right.
You don't know what good is like, if it's bad all the time. So you have to have that contrast where you're like, something to look forward to.
Sure. And see, and I was blessed, and I was self-driven while I was in the military, that I always paid myself first. So I didn't always do good in the stock market, but I always put my money away because I was taught at a young age to make your money work for you, put a little bit away. So I've done well, and I've done well up to this point. But if I didn't, I would have had to chase a job as soon as I got out of the military. And I never wanted to do that. I kind of wanted to freelance and do what I wanted.
That's the reason you got into the military in the first place.
That's right.
You didn't want to be stuck within some structure where it's the same rut that a lot of people get into a rut, and it's very easy to do that, and kind of what society expects some people to do in America as part of their part in the country and the society we live in, the economy. But you didn't want to do that, and it's probably good you didn't. You need to stay busy, but you don't want to get stuck into something you're just not going to be happy at anyway, or bounce around from thing to thing.
Right.
You want to try it without just being something without a clear purpose or a greater goal, I feel.
Exactly. Yep. And so when I got out, there was a lot of emotions of, sad, depressed, tough times, days I didn't want to get up, just trying to find out, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in my next chapter? And I have a master's degree in education, so I have some education, and, I could probably do a lot with that, but, I live in western Wisconsin, after 20 some years, it's kind of hard to go into that profession besides starting out as like a school teacher with that education degree. And so I just thought about what are the things that I'm good at. I always like coaching. I always like mentoring people. So I went into substitute teaching because you're around kids. You can inspire them. I like to have fun with them. I like to make them laugh and have a good time because
keep you young a little bit too.
Keep you young because life's stressful enough as well, especially on these kids nowadays, because they're seeing more things than we ever seen. So I think that's stressful right there because
their brains are being overloaded with information at a time where they're still forming.
Yep.
That is enough. Has got to be almost.
That's crazy. Yeah, and that's stressful enough. And then you throw on everything else they got to do in life nowadays. And then the parents, they're struggling as well. Most of them both working. So I just try to have fun with the kids and inspire them. Of course, teach them as well. So I just started subbing. I did that. Down in Alaska. I did that for a few years. And then we moved up here to Holman. And then in between that, I took a groundskeeping job because I like to be busy. And I like to work.
Outdoors.
And I like to work.
Work with things, accomplish things with your hands and your physical labor.
So I did that for 3 years. I had 50 acres of 16 fields of soccer fields.
You maintained it very well too, brother.
I
saw
thank
it
you.
when you took me on tour of that place. I can't believe one guy did.
Yeah, I did all that.
That work. I mean, you had an assistant or something for a while. It didn't quite work out.
Right.
It was all you. You did that for these people. You're delivering a result for all these people that expected it for their kids to be able to play on these fields. And you took care of that all on your own. The vehicle maintenance, or not the vehicle maintenance, but the
tractors,
maintenance equipment maintenance. and keeping the grounds in good order and painted, so you can see the lines, you can see where the goal's at. That's a lot of work, and you're all on your own, man. But shows you what an independent person can accomplish with a drive and efficiency.
Yeah, back to that independence and discipline. So I had to have them two things to go down there every day and do that job. And there's days you didn't want to go do that because, in the middle of summer, grass is growing. You're like, I know I'm going to have to do this day. Well, I'm going to have to do this, and I have to do this. So you had to do a lot of time management. But back to the military, it taught me how to do all them skills. So I was able to break that down in chunks and knew what I had to get done. The only tough thing about that job is if equipment wasn't working. If I had malfunctions, that's right, or things would have to wait to the next day, and people wanted these fields cut. That would be a little stress on you because then you have to get other equipment out. But yeah, I had over $150,000 worth of equipment down there, and just 16 soccer fields. Them parents, them coaches, them kids, they expect it to be done and done right because it's it's a nonprofit, but they're paying into it to make sure their coaches are teaching these kids how to play soccer at a high level. So it was pretty cool. I like that. I actually just resigned from it this spring, or it's still winter here, January, because I want to do other things. And they're understandable, so that's good. So it's time to turn the page, Bob Seger, do some other things. So,
well, yeah, I can remember that. Something,
right.
Turn the page.
Bob Seger, yeah.
Here I am on the road again.
That's him.
Here I am, up on the stage. There I go, being a star again. There I go.
Turn the page. And Metallica redid it.
Fuck yeah, they did it, man.
That was a good one.
Fucking awesome, brother. It's one of those songs where if you really get into the lyrics, it almost brings you to tears.
That's a good one, yeah.
Incredible song.
Bob Seger from Detroit. I think he's from the Moore City, so yeah.
Man, that's where some of the best emotion and songs come from. So finding purpose and drive again, desire to get up daily to be content, using your disciplines to give back to society. So you mentioned substitute teaching.
And I also taught some little HIIT classes, high intensity training, at a yoga center for a while. That was awesome. Cool. Yep, I like doing that. And then what else we got on our list?
Coaching, teaching, physical persistence, volunteering, public speaking. Where you want to go next? So we're getting close to that point. So you've done. You substitute teach this day. You were just doing it the other day when I arrived. Gave me some time to work. On some monotonous ass shit I had to do for my job, which is incredible, teaching these younger kids. So our last kind of few points here, and we can really explore this as well, is where you want to go next, short term, near term, long term. You got to have all those goals. Remain relevant and continue with a growth mindset. Touch base on different types of jobs you perform. Oh yeah, so you did do that. That was probably an earlier topic of some of the things you did post-military. Future goals to start a nonprofit, ultramarathon run, and to raise money for wounded veterans, homeless individuals, and food for less fortunate. So we'll backtrack it up here. What are your short-term and near-term goals?
Yeah, and I wrote them down as well. So I want to start a nonprofit. I have a really good running partner who, he won't say he's an elite runner, but he's going on his 16th marathon. James Flathammer, he's an amazing runner. He lives here in Holman with me. You'll actually probably meet him this weekend. We ran that 100K down in Bandera, Texas together.
60-mile, 100.
He did it in 12 hours. Pretty amazing. His goal was under 9, but the Rocks got the best of both of us. Took me a little over 17, but still a great accomplishment. We want to start a nonprofit to help people that are in need, whether it's homelessness, hunger, and we have it almost in every area that has population. We have a big area here in La Crosse. And then I also want to help veterans that
and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I was surprised to see it because it's such a nice place that you would think, like, can't remember, we were going near the restaurants in the business district, and there's like 10 people in the park, like talking to each other somewhere, laying in their sleeping bags, just right there on the ground in this beautiful community.
Right.
Homeless.
Yeah, it's crazy, and they find shelter in the winter. We have warming centers, but
they need them here.
They do, and they're starting to get overfull or overfilled to capacity, and now they're going to start using more parks to rehouse homeless because we have so many. But yeah, it is good. But I kind of want to put on an ultra run, and all the money that comes from that run with registrations and things like that, I want to donate it into the society. That's what I want to do. That's going to be one of my goals in the next few years.
That's one of the best things you can do. We can't change who the president is, or whatever once there's an election, or what we're going to do foreign policy wise,
Yep.
but we can change what we're doing for the people that are right here with us.
Right. And that's what we need to do. Yeah, if a lot of people think big, and some people even think internationally, some people think, Africa, there's a lot of crisis over there, and in other countries, but that's just one coming to my
certainly
mind.
are, yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. But I want to think small, aim small, and hopefully, hit my target, hit big, aim small and hit big.
Aim for the stars, but land on the moon.
Right. Like in the military, we aim small, but we want to hit big. We want to hit that target, whether it's a small target, we want to be center mass and hit that target. That's what I want to do. I want to, start with our community and then maybe build from there. So that's going to be my short-term goal.
Bring together people that are just like you.
That's right.
When you bring those people together, there's no stopping you.
That's
what
right.
you can do.
Yep. So that's what I'm going to start doing really soon. And then I do want to write a book. I do. I still want to write a book about my life and just where I come from and to where I'm at now.
Listen back to this and use that as your guideline.
Right. Use it as some narrative points, which would be great.
Yeah, the structure, the outline of it.
Yep, that's a great point. Thanks. And then I want to get into motivational speaking. I actually linked in with a person on LinkedIn, and she lives in Denver, so maybe I can visit her when I'm out in Denver visiting Madeline. And she actually does stuff with the Air Force Academy. She does a lot of good stuff, and I was looking at her bio. So I'm actually going to have a meeting with her in the next few months. So that'd be great to pick her brain and see how I can get into motivational speaker. But I want to gear my speaking towards our youth, and maybe younger college students, to not change their mindset, but to see that my mindset might be different than theirs, and maybe they can learn from it. Just the things I've been through, because they might not have been through them, just the struggles I went through in life to help them realize that, oh, he's been through this, well, I can get through this, just to comparison things, because we don't always want to compare, but it helps to have a point of reference on something. So
Yes,
I wouldn't mind doing that. And I want to mentor our youth that are really struggling, because if we don't help the ones that are struggling, we're always going, then they become statistics of society, and we don't want that, because then it burdens our society, and then they might not really reach their potential that they could. And we talked about that yesterday, how we're gearing education at a
one size fits all.
Yeah, and
which
it's not.
It really shouldn't be, man.
Nope.
We need to nurture the strengths amongst our people and let them shine at that so that we can all be stronger.
That's right.
Because of what it does is, if you're forcing somebody to do something they're not good at, it's discouraging them. And then when they go home, they have to hear, oh, this is your grade in fucking, math or science or whatever. And it's like, that might not be what they're good for.
Right.
And that's fine. Because in America, we can do whatever we want. And we should nurture the best among us to do those things so that we can focus on the things we're good at.
And that's one of the points. And then I want to hit, the ones that are on the borderline that the schools might say they have at-risk students, and that I want to talk to them.
Like the Challenge Academy folks?
Yep, and I want to talk to them about other options besides what they only know in their society. Because the military is great. A lot of my people be like, well, I don't want my kids to go in the military. I want this. It's great because you are forced into culture. And all this crap we keep hearing about in society in America, and I don't want to go down that hole about this. I've been among more races than most people that will ever talk about this. The people that founded these words, and we know what they are, I've been around them all because I've lived in Guam. I've been all over the place. I've been to Australia. I've been around this world. I've been around every culture out in the Pacific Island, and there's many more cultures when we come together and go fight in Iraq. I've been around these cultures. So I understand what culture is. But we only know what we know in our societies because that's where we live. And then we have these biases. And we got to get past that. And the only way to get past that is to get out of our comfort zone. And we have to think that, first of all, we have to treat people with respect. We have to. We have to give respect. Quit judging people because of their color or their skin. It's ridiculous.
It is.
It's terrible.
The silliest fucking thing,
It's
man.
crazy.
We have this terrible history with that, but nowadays it's like, it doesn't matter the color you're seeing. You're a fucking human
That's
being,
right.
man. You're a human being.
You're another human.
And we can all get along with.
Yep. And we all can
If
learn
we
from
try.
each other. And we all can learn from each other. I learn from these kids that I sub. That's the growth mindset I talked about.
Yeah, you're still learning from the youth.
That's right.
Even though you've been through I wouldn't say a full lifetime, but a
Yeah.
lot of lifetime in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I've been blessed. I tell people all the time, I live, almost a life and a half. I've lived a lot of life because it's just where I've been. I've been to 5 continents. That's a blessing. I only have Antarctica, and I haven't been to South America. You'd think I've been there. I've been to every other continent.
Well, maybe that'll be one of our trips one day.
Yeah, we got to go down there, and I
Go
might.
to Rio and fucking watch a soccer match.
That'd be
or something.
cool. That'd be cool. I wanna go to Antarctica and run a marathon there. They do them over there. Just run a
I
marathon.
know that is kind of crazy.
It is. They run it there. Yeah, but it's something to do. Just say I've been there. So, but anyways, so back to that, and then tell people it's okay. Join the military. Gives you free education. It sends you around the world. If you don't like, you can get out. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities there. But just the education and team building and the culture aspect are three of the greatest things about our military.
Well, I feel like, and I don't know, man. I mean, I speak on things that I'm not always in touch with, just because we're people. We form opinions on things, and I feel like they don't stress the structure and the discipline and the teamwork and cohesion on goals that you would get from the military.
Right.
I feel like and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like this younger generation is out of touch with what the military can provide, and that's because I think that the military has been perverted. It's more of, like Matt kind of says, it's like a social experiment nowadays, when it really should be focused on training and discipline and fighting skills and management of your mental, de-escalation in certain stressful situations, things like that. But there's a lot that the military can provide. I know, like we talked about Korea earlier, I tutored a Korean student in law school, super smart, hardworking. They require a mandatory year or two of military service afterward. That doesn't mean that you're going to get deployed somewhere. It just means that this is how it feels to fit into this, this structure, this unit, this team, and how can you operate and grow and achieve things in that environment. And they get that. And maybe there's not as much of a sense of national pride as we used to have, because I feel that at this time, in a lot of senses, we're a ship out at sea without a moral compass, man. We're not stressing the values to these people about being involved and things like that, and the sense of national pride that comes from that. We need that national pride of, we're America, we have scars on our history, but we're still the best out there. You want to change over to have China be the boss, or Russia and China, or
see how that goes for you.
Yeah, and Iran and North Korea too, and we're kind of being marginalized then.
Right.
You believe me, as bad as we are, and all this dumbass shit we've done with our foreign policy over the years, we're probably still the best alternative.
Right.
And I would say 100% we are. If when you read that book about China and all that, and how they control their population and all the things they do, we're still the best.
Sure. No, that's a good point. And I was going to bring up the technology that our youth is being forced into as a society, that we grew into it, they're growing up in it. One of the things I see is a downfall, which was going to be the whole soon, because they already live in it, and then we're going to, we'll expire someday. It creates too much individuality, and I don't like that. I don't. I noticed that on almost
in an isolated sense.
That's right.
Not like a strong individual leader of you're stuck in, this is all you have.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot of bad things on that from all the platforms. I'm not going to go into all the platforms. From LinkedIn to whatever they may be.
Well, LinkedIn is the best of them.
It is.
That's for like the adults.
It is.
Or,
right.
TikTok and all this bullshit.
Exactly. And what I see is just so many people promote themselves in a light that they want you to see them because they can. And I don't know if that's always good.
Because it's not necessarily real.
That's right. And I have
all the glitters is not gold. These people are probably depressed too, but look at me, I'm on vacation now.
Yep.
And then what do you have when you get back here?
Right. Exactly.
What substance do you have?
Yep. Because we all have three lives. We have our private, our secret, and our public life. That's what I tell people. And it's the truth. There's three lives you're going to portray. And whatever type of person you are, and wherever you were born and aligned with whatever it may be, your sign, some of that stuff does line up. I do believe in that. But with that, it's how you want to be portrayed. We're all putting on a show for somebody, to fit in society, because we're all a part of society.
Align those things as much as possible.
Yep.
Like, what I want people to know
Excuse me.
Is that when I do these videos and I talk openly, like what you see is what you get.
Yep.
The conversations we're having right now, it's just that there's people that get to listen to this. I'm pretty much the same person. Like, I've never been fake. I'm probably too real sometimes when I need to be more tactful with clients or business partners. But I just want to let them know, like, this is the reality of the situation. This is what has to be done to do what we're doing, and just it is what it is. Like, try to detach your emotion from that a little bit, because otherwise you're going to be stressed the fuck out, and you're going to succumb to the emotions of other people as well.
That's true. Yep. And
managing emotion is one of the biggest parts of life.
And why put all that emotion into something you can't control? That's what I constantly tell people. Quit getting worried about things you can't control. Control what you can. Control what you can with these two hands and this mind within your small sphere of influence or whatever that may be, manage it. Don't get overworked up about it. And stress is really killing this country. It is.
Well, because they're constantly
Anxiety.
being overloaded with stress. Because
That's right.
they have their own stresses of just everyday life. Is their relationship with their significant other good?
Yep.
Are they happy in the job that they're in? Is it a non-fulfilling thing? Like, you got away from that at an early age. You
Yep.
just don't feel fulfilled. Some people are comfortable being ruts and they live their whole life like that, and then they retire. It's kind of sad if you ask me, but that's, to each their own. But people are, not only do they have their own stresses, they're being overloaded with nonstop information all the time. Like, at least back in the day, you used to be able to turn off a TV and then go outside. But, even you and I think I manage my phone more than it manages me. And I think I'm in more control of it, which I'm grateful for, because some people, they would have been pulling up their phone right during the podcast. I've had guests on that do it, not often, but they're not focusing on the conversation, that this is something that's dragging their attention away, constantly being bombarded with information. When we as human beings, as we've grown and evolved over the years, we're not really meant to be just constantly smashed with alerts coming up and think about this. And it distracts you then from the positive action you could have taken on your own personal stresses. And then, Naval Ravikant said it, that in order to be happy in modern society, because there's so much society out there, you need to disconnect from it and have less society in your life. Focus on the ones that really matter and the things that really matter to you, because otherwise you're not going to be happy if your opinions being constantly pulled in different directions about what's going on here, what's going on there, what do we do about it, this is how you should think about it. Like, independent thinking, my dad always told me, there's so many little sayings that he left with me that are the treasure trove of my life. Be an independent thinker.
That's right.
And that's a skill. All the things we've discussed here take constant maintenance and work. They're not something that you do once and you're a master at it, or you do for a while and you're a master at it and then you put it down. Being an independent thinker, you have to think, like, they're so good at, they've basically learned how to manipulate the human mind, and they're so good at it now that you hear one opinion, you're like, yeah, I agree with that. But then you hear the other side, or you hear that other's perspective, and you're like, yeah, and you have to really make up your mind between those two things. So one thing that I'm working on, that will be one of the things I'm working on for many years now, is hearing both sides, trying to do the independent research, and then making up my mind. Because it's so easy to be pulled in one direction.
That's such a good point. And Western societies are bad at it. Not all, but in general they are. They always, well, not always, I would say more than half. There's so many people out there, and it's in America now, that think they have to be right. You don't have to be right. It's your opinion. It's your opinion. Why does it you always have to prove a point to be right? I don't understand that. It's just, look at both sides, and you choose as an individual what you think fits what your mind thinks, instead of like, oh, this is the only way it can be. This is the right way. Because there's more than one way of looking at it. Because another society will look at things totally different than we look at it. So, but we really get fixated on, oh, no, you're wrong, you're right. People argue about everything nowadays in our country, like we were talking about, the things they can't even control, but they think they're right. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
I think the media really contributes to that.
It does.
They show people how easy it is to just spew out stuff for long periods of time. Because like Matt, shout out to Matt Thomason, he was on the podcast last week, said the actual news itself is just a headline and it's just a blurb, whereas the whole rest of the cable news production is just people spouting off opinions.
That's all it is.
How you should think about it.
It is.
And and I think personally, the reason people's opinions are strong and the reason why we fight about this is because in terms of politics, the consequences can be very great. They can be severe. They can be good. They can be bad, depending on who's in power, who's in their ear, and their agenda that they plan on carrying out. There is great consequences for the nation, whether it be spending, whether it be military action, whether it be domestic policy,
transportation, infrastructure, whatever.
Everything. And then with the coronavirus added on top of it, like, there's something that is truly American. And then their love of terms of freedom and freedom of choice and not being mandated to do things that is part of our very fabric and DNA here. And yet, during these last couple of years, we've been forced and mandated. The word mandate comes up. And people are sick and fucking tired of it, man. Most people are. There's people that fell into it, and maybe time and history will prove me to be wrong. But I think even the people that were pro-mandate and pro this and that will see it in the future. Maybe I'll be on the wrong side of it, but I think people are starting to wake up to it now. The mandates to do this and to live our lives in a certain way are wrong,
Right.
or at least they're anti-productive to our society and our strength as a collective group of individuals living this life. I mean, we saw that our good manufacturing jobs, they're not here anymore. What that is in terms of its implications for national security, we're left with service jobs, and they take those away from us too.
Yeah.
You're not an essential worker. Your business is going to be shut down. Your people can't come in. And then all those people, that offshoot of that, it all trickles down. They're without a job. They're sitting at home. Domestic violence and drinking and alcoholism have been an all-time high.
Yeah.
There's people saying that they see their neighbors or somebody was telling me they could hear their neighbor dumping all the bottles into the garbage can when they go out there, clink, 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 clink,
Sure.
and all this shit. So it's been really tough. I'm looking forward to this
Me too.
fucking mandate,
Me too.
post-COVID era
Post-COVID.
of back to real life, because I hope that people realize out of all this, when we get back to it, is how much we need each other, how much we need interaction, physical touch, teamwork, all these things that we've been deprived of, because it's so valuable. I was just at a funeral a few weeks ago, and everybody was collectively mourning. You could feel it like rising in the air, like precipitation and clouds over the crowd of these emotions. We need to be able to express that with each other, man. And this whole thing with the fucking coronavirus, in my opinion, it was made in a lab, and it was probably funded by US dollars, and it was inflicted on us without the truth ever being told to us, and then being forced to live a certain way. I don't think they've been honest with us about it, and it's caused a huge detriment to our society, and especially to our children, that will continue on for years and years to come. And that's something that we'll have to work with as well.
Right.
The people who had it bad now have it worse, and the people who had it good or bad now have it worse too. So everything that you're going to be doing with your nonprofit, with helping people out, they need it more than ever before.
They
man.
do.
We need to return to strong leadership in
we do.
America. We really do. At the individual level, and build from there. And another thing is, we have a lot of politicians that don't fucking listen to us. And I think we need a way of showing each politician's vote on a certain subject or whatever, or a certain topic or a certain bill, to hold them accountable. Be like, this is not what we wanted, but that's what you fucking go and do to
We need
Washington.
term limits. We need term limits on all of
100%.
them.
That's the simplest thing.
8 years is the longest they can do. Period. I don't
This
care.
shouldn't
I don't
be a
care how
career.
good they are.
Shouldn't be a career. Exactly. I don't care.
I don't care
Go
how good
do
they are.
something
Get
else.
someone else in there. Yep.
Yeah, go do something else. If you're good at that, go be good somewhere else too.
So back to that real quick. How many of them have fixed mindsets? Let's think about that for a minute. These senators, these congressmen. How much are they actually
fixed
growing?
mindsets, but also who's buying them. Man.
There you go. Well, then they become fixed.
Most places in life, you have to watch where the money goes.
That's right.
And or where it comes from and where it goes. It's like, these motherfuckers are bought, man.
Yep.
First of all, to me, when I was younger, I believed in the ability to change things, and I thought that politics and government was a way to do that. But now, when somebody tells me they want to be a politician, and they want this, they want that, they want to go up in these rings, I'm like, are you mentally sick? Like, your whole job, what you want to do is be in a position of power and control other people.
Right.
And then you have, money, unfortunately, is considered speech in this country, and you don't know where this money's come from, or it's hard to track it, or who's behind it. And those are the people, money speaks the loudest, unfortunately. What you and I want, or what we think is good for our local societies, you don't really have a voice in that. So I think it's a return to civic engagement on the local level. But the challenge for Americans is, when you get done with a 9 to 5 at night, you go home, you're fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want to go to that town hall meeting or argue with people. But returning to civil discourse in a civil way, and just being nice to each other, man. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we wrap things up, because there's something that I say at the end of every podcast, and I'll repeat it on this podcast. But as we get to the end here, let's see if we've covered everything, or if there's anything that you want to leave people with.
Yeah, I will be doing a couple more runs this year. I'm doing the Chicago Marathon. I'm actually raising money for iSalute. If anybody's out there wants to contribute. iSalute, it's for veterans that are in hard times, and they help with basic things from groceries, car payments, rent, vehicles breakdown, things like that. So raising money for that, and then I'll be running the Chicago Marathon this fall. But Yeah, back to the nonprofit stuff. I'll be really keying into that and starting my own ultra run in the area for ultra runners, and then all that money will go into nonprofits. That's really my passion.
Each
with a
individual
friend.
runner will raise money, and that will all go into a pool.
Well, just probably the fees to run it.
Okay, fees.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll
right.
figure out how to front that myself to run the runs and the medals and things like that. But the registration and things like that, a lot of that money will go back to nonprofits. That's my goal. So, which would be good. So that's one of my goals. And then maybe start a podcast. I got a buddy I'm thinking about doing one with, the one that I call the Elite Runner, James Sladhammer. I'm thinking about doing something with him just to talk about journeys and running and things like that. And he's really good. I mean, he's ran Berlin, he's running Boston again, and he did that 100K with me. And I just think he would have a lot to offer the running community for ultra running, which would be cool to do a podcast with him. And then bring in other guests, because there's a lot of runners in this area, Western Wisconsin, that are really good. There's one guy, he's going up to Duluth, or might be Superior, and you have to self-support yourself with like an Onkyo. You're pulling a sled. And it's like I know it's over 100 miles in the cold. Jesus. And doing it by yourself, you have no crew. I think you have to bring your own food, everything. And he carries it, and he pulls it with him. It's pretty cool, and he's from this area. He is an elite runner. I don't know his name off the top of my head. But yeah, so...
Get people like that in. And
Yep.
then also, you should, if you start the podcast, bring in people who know nonprofit work and how to form it and how to organize it and move it forward so that you can do it yourself.
Right. Start running it myself and doing it myself, yeah. Just have a small crew. So that's what I'm really gold on. And then, we talk about write a book, and then I want to travel more. This summer I want to travel. Was that?
Did you have a name for the book?
No, not yet.
Or a name for your nonprofit you want to form?
Not yet. No, I'm still brainstorming.
Well, let's brainstorm together. Maybe I can come up with something that rhymes or that's catchy.
That'd be great. I appreciate it. Yeah, and then I want to travel more this summer. There's 5 states I haven't been to, and then I'll probably go back to Ireland because I think COVID's turned a page. Bob's
I hope so. That you don't have to fucking show your card just to get on the plane or whatever. You can't get in
I don't think you do. I just looked it up yesterday, but I need to do a little more research because I want to buy my tickets soon because they're getting expensive again. They're about $600 I can get them for into Dublin from Minneapolis. So
round trip.
Round trip. So,
that's not bad.
Yeah,
if it's
but
round trip.
The longer you wait in the summer, it's expensive because people have to travel in Ireland this summer.
It's funny that you mentioned Ireland because I had a friend who got COVID while she was there, and I felt terrible.
Really?
Yeah, Florinda Sanchez. Shout out to Flo. We call her Flo for short.
Got it over there.
Yeah, beautiful young woman, and she got COVID while she was there, and basically had to quarantine most of the fucking
they're pretty rough on
man.
it over there. Yeah, they make it quarantine.
She was in quarantine for 14 days.
I bet, over there in Ireland.
Which, I mean, I get it, I guess.
Yeah.
Hopefully, she had a good Netflix subscription in the fucking hotel
right.
or something.
Just hanging out.
Pass the time, watch Bloodline.
Right, Bloodline. Shout out to Bloodline on Netflix. Good show. But if you like that kind of stuff. But hey, thanks for having me on Blessed University. It's been awesome, man. But that's really all I got, unless you got any other questions.
No, I think we'll end it on that. I just saw a text from my wife. Shout out to Sarah, Tierney, and Tammy Dreyer. They're coming back with Eva. She's getting ready for her winter formal, and so we'll encourage her for the rest of the day. And this was an incredible podcast, man. I learned more about you and your timeline of what you went through, and a lot of little sayings and the ways to live life. So I'm enriched by the information and the knowledge that you kicked my way today.
Appreciate it.
And I don't think it could have went any better. And that's the thing. One of the things I'm blessed about with this podcast is just that I have a vision for it. We make an outline. We go with it. We have good, honest conversation. And it always ends up being like everything I expected it to be and more. So thank you, brother, humbly, for your service namaste, to your service to your country, to your service to your family and people like me, being there when we needed it. And sometimes that's all you need to do, just your presence alone or the things you can contribute. And so thank you again, and I look forward to helping you in any way that I can going forward, and definitely, hopefully, you get connected soon with the people you need to start this nonprofit, to write this book. And I know a couple people that I know who are published authors who might be able to give you some tips about who to talk to and how to do it, because I know it's getting more expensive to do print publication, but you still kind of need it. So I will try to connect you and help you in any way that I can. I've donated already, and I will continue donating to the cause as well, because I can't take it with me, and if somebody else can do better from having these resources, then God bless, man, because money doesn't solve all problems, but it solves a whole fucking lot of them in a capitalist society.
You got that right.
So we'll wrap up on this note. This is something I say on every podcast. I've gotten along with people of all races, colors, and genders by just starting from a position of kindness and respect. Whether it's just talking to any individual, you know, whether it be the person at the coffee shop who's serving your coffee, the waiter last night, hey, how are you? You know, how you doing? What's your name? That's an important thing too. Is it this nameless person who just served you? What's your name?
Yep.
You know, I want to call you by your name. I want to know you. You know, how long have you been working here? Getting along with people, conversation. People need encouragement.
They do.
They fucking do. You know what I mean? And you sharpen your own skills of communication and interaction by doing that, and you help somebody else. People might have a ho-hum job, and just by chatting with them, bringing a smile on their face, laughing, you know, together.
Making them feel valued.
Making them feel valued. Make everybody feel like somebody. And I know that's probably a famous old saying. Somebody said that. Somebody famous said, try to make everybody feel like somebody. And be good to yourself, because if you're not good to yourself, you can't help anybody else.
Nope.
Be good to your family, your friends, and your community. Be the change that you want to see in society, and start at that small level and just build it from there and bring people together. That's when the most blessings come. So, you know, many blessings to all our listeners out there. Thank you for listening. I hope you got a bunch of, you know, enriching knowledge, and just tune in next time, the Blessed Life University podcast. Good to see you, brother, man.
Good to see you. Amen,
bring it
brother.
on in.
Yeah, bring it in. Amen, brother. Good job.
Let's enjoy
good.
the rest of our stay here.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Short getaway.
Thanks, man.